Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 3 Point Weekly. We're going to start off today with a discussion on two of our predicted one seeds in the Western Conference. The Minnesota Timberwolves, of course, made a big splash this offseason acquiring Rudy Gobert, and it has been a highly criticized move. But despite that criticized move, despite the fact that Karl Anthony Towns has been out for the majority of the season, the Timberwolves are now the 5 seed and are only 2 games away from being the 3 seed in the Western Conference, thanks to arguably being one of, if not the best Western Conference team over the last few weeks. So we're going to start off talking about the Timberwolves. We'll start off with Tyrik, given he was alongside me, thinking the Timberwolves could be the 1 seed this year. What are your thoughts on the Timberwolves as of late, and do you think that they can keep this good run of form going?
Yeah, the 1 seed prediction might have been a little premature. I'll say that, but yeah, I mean the way that their season started and when Karl Anthony Towns went down, I feel like a lot of people jumped off the ship. I was very skeptical because they didn't look good at the time, but lately they have been looking a lot better. I think we've seen a little bit of a jump from Anthony Edwards, which has been good, but I got to give a lot of credit to D'Angelo Russell because early on in the season there was a lot of discourse around him. You know, whether the Timberwolves look to trade him, what his value would even be on the open market. Like, people were kind of saying, like, he's just not the same. He's probably not the kind of guard that this team needs, but he's really stepped it up a lot lately, along with him, Anthony Edwards being so solid, Kyle Anderson being a nice additional piece, and Rudy Gobert has been better. It's not the, defensive player of the year Rudy that we've come to know, but he's still been very solid and very productive doing what he does. So a big turnaround. Do I think that they can keep it up? I think they can. It's going to be interesting for when Karl Anthony Towns does come back. I feel like we haven't heard any updates about what's going on with him. So we'll see when he does come back, if he does this season, but that'll be an issue down the road that they'll have to figure out. But for right now, definitely playing good ball. They're playing the Kings right now. That's a closely contested game. But, yeah, I'm glad that they've been able to figure it out because that was such a polarizing move in the offseason. And it went about as bad as it could have got early on, but they've really started to right the ship.
Yeah, I will say I'm going to have to chalk this one up as at least a light W. My preseason prediction as a 5 seed. And as of today, January 30th, they're in that 5 seed, man. I think a lot of what I said before the season was like big trade, big new piece that isn't necessarily the easiest to just integrate onto any roster in the entire league. I think as time progressed, starting to finally figure it out, put the pieces together, it will be real interesting, though, just to really see what happens when you integrate that biggest piece back into the puzzle, at least what I think is the biggest piece, the guy that's been there as your franchise cornerstone the longest. When they first got put together, I was thinking, maybe Kat and Rudy sort of complement each other well, sort of make up for one another's weaknesses. But as we've seen with them throughout the season, like, things really didn't go great when they were together. So I don't know what that means for how late Kat comes back. If that's like super close to the playoffs, will they be able to figure that out instantly? Will they kind of have some issues there that'll lead them to underperforming once they get to the postseason? If they make it, because the West is still so close, they could be back in the play-in or below in like a week. So there's still a lot of things to be answered, but the fact that they've at least got this core of like they've got Russell, Edwards, and Gobert kind of figuring it out with at least those pieces, integrating them together, I think that's a good place to be. It's just adding in that last piece of the puzzle that's so large that's really going to be the deciding factor.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's still the biggest question around this team is just how those two fit together and how well they can play together. Because there was some okay moments, but there's definitely been some pretty bad moments so far in the roughly 20 games that Karl Anthony Towns and Gobert have played together. But like you guys alluded to, Anthony Edwards has played really well over the recent stretch. But it's been some of the role players that have really helped him on this stretch too. I mean, as you alluded to, Tyrik, Kyle Anderson has been really, really good for them. His minutes have been really impactful. He's been a good playmaker this year. He doesn't shoot many threes, but he's been very efficient on them this year. He just plays winning basketball and has been a really important part of their recent success. McDaniels has been a really important part of the success this year as well. He's like a really underrated as far as how effective he actually is as a wing defender. He's very valuable to how good their defense has been, and his three-point shooting efficiency has been even better this year. So some of these contributions from the secondary guys has been a big part of it too. And of course, their main guys are starting to do better with Edwards and D'Angelo Russell and Rudy Gobert. Just depends on how they can fit the pieces together once Towns is back. But for the time being, without Towns, they're winning. And they're looking like a team that could at least provide a fight in the playoffs again. And whether that means they stay amongst the top few teams in the West or slip down a bit, at least they're looking like they're a competitive basketball team. They look like they're going to be able to prove a fight and might be able to rip a playoff series off of someone, or at least be in that type of contention.
Yeah, I was going to say that, like, the way that they're playing right now, if they can carry this on into the rest of the season, whether Cat comes back or not, I think nobody would want to see them in the first round because that's going to be a tough out. You know, the way that they're playing basketball defensively, they've been better. And like you said, they're a pretty deep team. Like you just mentioned, guys coming off their bench. Like even like Naz Reid, if he's on the team past the trade deadline or not, he's a very like a piece off the bench that can come in and get them buckets, which is what they need out of him. Same thing with like Jalen Noel. Like they got guys off that bench. Torian Prince has always been solid in his NBA career. Like they got guys off the bench. They have the playoff experience from last season as well, where they probably learned a lot because that was such an up and down series against the Grizzlies, which, you know, you ask some people, they were probably like it looked like they were the more dominant team, but they just had those collapsing moments, like blowing 20-point leads multiple times. So they had that experience. They got that chip on their shoulder. So nobody would want to see this team in the first round if they continue this brand of basketball.
And I think it really sets up for a good postseason because, like you said, nobody wants to see them. I think you look at every team, and you could reasonably see the Timberwolves going the distance, maybe even stealing one against most of these teams here. Like, you know, the Kings and Clippers are above them, but relatively unproven. Like, Clippers have been far, but we don't know if they can stay healthy at all. So it's just no idea. And then, like, below them, the Warriors have had a lot of ups and downs. Mavs have had a lot of ups and downs. Pelicans are on a crazy downturn right now. Then even looking up at the top, like the Grizzlies, well, they just won last game before recording this episode. They haven't been great recently either. So it's like every team has some sort of weakness. And if the Timberwolves pick the right time, they really could make an impact because it just feels so open.
Yeah, it really does. The West feels as open as can be right now. I mean, like you say, I mean, the Pelicans are in a rough stretch right now down at the 8 seed, and it's not too long ago they were a 1 seed. And that's just the nature of the Western Conference right now. It's going to make for a very interesting playoffs once we get there, unless something drastic changes at the deadline, because as of right now, probably an argument for 8 or 9 teams in the West that I can't completely deny of you saying, yeah, they can probably get to a conference finals. And that's just the state of the West right now.
Yeah, and it's like even like the top seed Denver Nuggets, like I'm just still not confident in them, like nearly as much as I should be for a 1 seed. So, and it's crazy because we were having this discussion like beginning of December, like we were asking each other like, who's the team that you would fear the most in the Western Conference? I feel like it's even more murky now than it was back then, and we are about 60% of the way through the season. Usually by this point, we're like, okay, we know which teams are going to be probably the best of the best when it comes to like their conferences. In the East, we kind of know, or at least we have an idea of the teams that are like, okay, these, you know, this group of team right here, like those are the guys. In the West, it's like you said, 8 or 9 teams that could maybe make it to the Western Conference Finals. Like that's just how crazy it is.
Yeah, and like you say about it getting more murky out west, I mean, when we talked about this a few weeks ago, it was Memphis kind of seemed like the pick, but Memphis are not looking as confident of a pick anymore to get out. So it's definitely going to be an interesting scene. It's going to be exciting to hopefully see a few more new playoff debuts between the guys on the Kings, getting to see a new look Timberwolves team. Hopefully the Pels get to have Zion healthy, ready to go in the playoffs as well. So hopefully we get to see that part at least, but it's definitely going to make for some interesting decisions come the trade deadline, which is only now a week and a half away, and as well as come playoff time, what we end up getting. But speaking of the trade deadline, we'll stay at the top of the West. I know we were talking about it a bit before the start of the podcast. Bones Hyland has been in trade rumors, and given the fact that he is still a solid backup point guard and is only in year 2, do you think there's any reason that the Nuggets should actually be moving him on at this point in time?
I'm going to start off and say no. I don't see, if I'm the Denver Nuggets, why are you really even making a move? I mean, maybe to like round out the edges, but is there really a guy out there? Is there really a deal you're making that you feel is worth that? Like there's just not really a ton there, and especially this team just feels like it gels and clicks so well together as a roster. It's like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why are you even really trying to mess with this? If the right offer presents itself, I'm never going to tell a team to not get better. If something appears where you're like, okay, yeah, we're clearly in a better position to win a championship in a year where you're the 1 seed, the West runs through Denver, and the West is wide open. It's not like there's some coasting team at like the 4 or 5 seed that it's like, oh, they're clearly the team. They're just not putting it together in the regular season. That doesn't really exist. And so, yeah, I think there is a world where it's like maximize what you can now because you never know how long your window is going to last. But at the same time, like I keep saying, the way this team plays together, I don't know how quick I am to really disrupt that flow.
Especially when like there's people like me and maybe a lot of other people that are still questioning this team. And would a move like that really shake them up enough to improve their chances of being that clear-cut team? I don't see it personally. I really am. I'm a big fan of Bones Hyland just as a basketball player, but I like how he's just a seamless fit into that team. He comes in, he does his job. Like that's why they were so confident making the Monte Morris trade in the offseason because they're like, we got Bones Hyland. You know, he's the next guy up for us in that to run that second unit. He filled in nicely last season, even when like Monte would miss time, he would start and he would have some explosive games. You know, next to Jokic being pretty much their secondary option. So unless something just comes out of nowhere, like a team is just desperately trying to get Bones Hyland and it's a move that they know that they can't pass up on, then you pull the trigger because you are trying to win a championship. You know, this is probably your best window to make a run, like the way the West is set up this season. Then maybe you make that move, but I don't think you just make it just for the sake of we need to do something, but it would have to be like, I think the perfect type of trade. And really, I don't know if that exists now. Obviously, a week and a half into the trade deadline is a very long time in the NBA world, so we'll see what happens, but I wouldn't bank on him getting moved, and if they do, it better be for the right price.
Yeah, they definitely shouldn't just be trading him for the sake of trading him. I completely agree. I mean, they still got him for the rest of this year and another 2 years under team control before they got to give him a new contract. So it just doesn't really make sense at this point. I mean, they have an okay backup point guard behind him in Ish Smith if they really need someone to run that unit and they want to improve on the wing. But for such a talented young player, it definitely seems early to be moving off of him in year 2 when he fits in the system well. And like you say, the West is as open as it ever is, and unless you're making the perfect move, it just doesn't make sense to be getting rid of such a key part of your second unit.
Yeah, especially when you traded Monte Morris for that. It's just don't move on. Yeah. Sorry, you can go ahead though.
No, that's a good point. Like when they made that trade in the offseason, I'm like, Monte Morris was like the backup point guard before like Tyus Jones really popped on the scene. That was the guy that's like, this is the best backup point guard in the league, if not one of the top guys, right? So when they made that trade, I'm like, they must really believe in Bones Hyland to be that guy. So it would just be weird, like a few months later, then to make a Bones Hyland trade when he hasn't been bad this season. He's been pretty good for them. So I don't know. We'll see what Denver does, but I think they're kind of feeling the pressure of this is the best year for us to make a run to the finals, so they got to make the most of it.
Yeah, I think that definitely is playing a part in it. And they're probably not going to be the only team that feels that way in the Western Conference. I mean, Memphis might do a similar thing because they got Danny Green, who it looks like he's going to be starting to get ready to play for the back end of the season. So moving his salary alongside some assets, they might be looking to do similar things. So I think there's going to be I don't think there's going to be a ton of teams in the West that are going to make a big splash, but I think Denver and Memphis and potentially even the Kings to get a better big and the Clippers to maybe even move off some guys to get some players in different areas. There's a lot of these teams at the top of the West that could be looking to make some moves to just tinker around the edges. So once that first move drops, everyone else feels a little bit more of that pressure. It was the same thing in the East a few years ago. I forget some of the moves, but it was the year that the Bucks got Mirotic and hardly used them. And it was just throughout the course of the last day or two of the deadline, it was this Eastern Conference team after Eastern Conference team that kept making moves because everyone felt that they needed to between Mirotic and Marc Gasol, and everyone just started making moves. And people start to feel that pressure when people kind of feel that a conference is open, and that's how it was in the East that year. And this year might be the same thing in the West.
Definitely, like a team like Phoenix could easily try and make a move too. Like maybe we see the Warriors finally throw their hand into some trade deadline talks. Like, yeah, there's not going to be, like you said, that splash, but there's going to be some smaller type deals that get done, and we might look back and like be like, that's the move that kind of put them over the top. Not going to be a star name, but it might be. Maybe it is like a Bones Hyland, or I can't even think of guys that are really on the market. Maybe Jay Crowder gets moved. I don't know, but something like that.
Yeah, I'd find it hard to imagine a scenario where Jay Crowder isn't moved. I don't know where, and it's probably for less than Phoenix want, but I'd imagine he has to get moved somewhere. Danny Green probably gets moved somewhere as well from Memphis for assets. I would tend to think the Warriors finally have to move off of at least one or two of their young guys.
It's got to be Wiseman. It has to be Wiseman.
I'd have to imagine so. I mean, as of right now, they're not getting any value from them on their roster, and they're not exactly in a position to just let a young guy try and develop in the G League. So,
yeah, Jay Crowder's a Miami Heat, man.
He might be a Buck. He might be a Buck if those rumors are true.
He might be. I think it's probably one of those two teams. But I gotta imagine he's on the move somewhere.
I would actually like him in Milwaukee. I think they're missing somebody like that. They miss that PJ Tucker type of guy. He's not PJ Tucker, but he brings that toughness like PJ Tucker does.
Yeah, they could definitely use him.
If you're giving up George Hill, Jordan Wara, and was it Serge?
Yeah.
Hey, if that trade's on the table, I'm taking that. Because if I'm looking at my playoff rotation, none of those guys are playing for me.
No, definitely not.
None of them.
Definitely not. Although George Hill always seems to find his way, so who knows?
Javon Carter minutes were way better. They were better last playoffs in the Celtics series, and Bud stopped playing Javon for some reason. And George Hill was getting picked on. I don't know what he was thinking, but
I don't know, man. That guy finds a way to get playoff minutes. Hasn't deserved them for a few years, but he finds a way.
It's the Bucks' backup point guard role, man. They said the same thing about Jeff Teague finals minutes, and they still won that series.
You know when the series flipped? When they stopped giving him minutes.
But he got a ring out of that. Jeff Teague got a ring out of that.
He does. I hesitate to say Celtics legend because he was not very good with us.
Another trade rumor I saw, and I want to see what you guys think about this because I just found it more humorous than anything. The Clippers were in talks for both Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry. They're trying to get the band back together, man. How are we feeling about them getting the band back together?
I mean, look, they're trying to get back the core pieces of a winning team. And as a Raptor fan, I gotta respect it. But like, if they can get Freddie, that's one thing. But they don't have the assets for him. At least I don't think they do. And if you're getting Lowry, like, fine. But like, Lowry's a pretty lateral move at this point. I mean, Lowry's my guy, but he's probably not doing much better than Reggie is right now. And Reggie hasn't had a great year, but Lowry hasn't had a great year either. So I don't know. I think the Clippers are just in a tough spot where they can make some lateral moves. They can move off of some guys for some different assets because they have so much depth, but they just don't have the assets to make that type of splash. So they'll be listening in on a lot of calls and they'll be making a lot of calls, but I don't know how active the Clippers actually can be, at least on moves that'll actually make a significant difference.
Yeah. Like if they could get Freddie, that would be nice, but this is not 2K, man. Like John Wall and whoever else you got is not going to get that job done. So, yeah, I mean, they're, like you said, weird spot. Like they've been running Terrence Mann at point guard lately. He's been fine, but it's like, they would definitely like to upgrade that position. That's been the position of need for them for like basically since they put this squad together around Kawhi and Paul George. So it's tough. They might, just walk out of the deadline the exact same team that they are, no trades made, because it's like, what do they really have to move that they would want to move off of? Like, you don't want to move Norman Powell. Obviously, Kawhi and PG here to stay. Same thing with Zubac. And outside of that, their assets are not really great. Maybe Marcus Morris, if you want to give him up, would entice somebody, but would the return be what you want? Who knows? They're in a weird spot. I trust them to make some type of right decision if there is one on the table, but yeah, the Freddie one, nah, that's unrealistic. It would be nice though. That would maybe be that move that would push them over the top.
Yeah, that could definitely be that type of move. But like you say, I just don't think there's going to be enough assets there for them to do it. The other point guard who's been in the rumor mill, that is a little bit of an interesting one, is Chris Paul. And there's been some teams that are a bit interested on whether Phoenix are going to move off of him, whether it be at the deadline, whether it be in the offseason. Do we think Chris Paul gets moved anytime soon, or is he just a Sun for the remainder of this contract?
He's a Sun, man.
I don't think anybody's trading for him. No way.
Yeah, you can't commit to that much money for somebody who their value is probably the lowest it's ever been. I think that's just a not smart trade for any team who would be making that. Like, yeah, you might get some better playmaking on your roster, but you're just taking on such a large contract, and I don't know if the production is worth that anymore. And especially for a player of his age, while his game's pretty much aged like fine wine for the most part, I think right now we're about the least confident that he can give us that high level play that we've ever been. And so now is probably not the time to take a gamble on a point guard that old leading your team over the top.
Yeah, he's making a lot of money. I just I couldn't see a team that is serious about contending going to get Chris Paul at this stage, man. Like the time to do it would have been like a couple off seasons ago when he did sign that contract, but time has passed since then. He's gotten older since then. He has looked good recently since he came back from his injury, but you gotta think if you wait until the off season, that's about 6 more months of miles on that body. Depending on what Phoenix does in the playoffs, that's more miles on his body. And who knows? Like he might look even worse next season, and you're still gonna be paying him a lot of money. It's just wouldn't be smart to do, man. I think Phoenix, like, if you're desperately trying to move off that contract, I can understand the thought, but that would be probably a step back for them because they're not going to get the return that they want. Maybe they would have some cap space, but who is seriously going to consider going to Phoenix? We would have to wait and see. It'd be a risky move for sure, but they've been playing a little better lately, so that's a good sign. Just hopefully Book comes back and he picks up right where he left off.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about earlier in the year, Book is the engine of that team now. It's no longer CP3, so at least they're treading water now while he's out. So as long as he can come back and get back on his stuff like he was before, then they're going to be in a fine spot. But yeah, I mean, like you guys say, if the Suns could move off of Chris Paul's money, that wouldn't be a terrible thing. But I don't think there's anyone that's going to take on that money. And even if anyone is, the Suns are probably getting back just as much money in other deals. So I don't think there's a way where the Suns can get out of that. And ultimately, that was just the reality of the situation when they signed that deal. It was the front of the deal is going to be fine because Chris Paul was playing good basketball at the time, but the back end of it's going to suck, and that's just the price they had to pay to keep their third guy around or their other star alongside Booker and DA around for the next few years to have that potential of making another finals.
Yeah, and it's like they probably missed their window. Well, I think their window was the year they made the finals. And last season when they were the best in the NBA. And it's just the reality, man. When you have aging stars, your window is a lot shorter than you might think. Even though they signed Chris Paul to a multi-year deal, I think they knew in their mind, like, we probably don't have that much great basketball out of Chris Paul left. So they might have missed their window. That's probably why there are a little bit of rumblings of them wanting to move off of that money.
Is the window closed, though? Because I just look at this. I look at this conference, and I'm just like, the windows, who closed the window? Like, why can't they?
Father
like
time,
the Suns, the way they're, yeah, okay, Chris Paul might not be the reason, but he could pull a little, like, I don't want to call it an Iguodala or like a Draymond, but like maybe he elevates a little bit in the playoffs, and Book doing what he was doing at the beginning of the season, he elevates in the playoffs, and they were the 1 seed in the regular season beforehand. So it's like, what, you think this team couldn't win a series against like Sacramento or like even Denver or something? Like, I think they have a real chance there. And that's why I say, like, especially from like at least getting out of the West, I think is very possible. The only thing where I'm like, yeah, I don't see any sort of chance is when you get back to like, can they beat the Celtics? And I think the answer to that is no. But nobody in the West has really impressed me enough to say that somebody's really closed the window. Anybody in the top 9, I think, has a chance.
I just don't trust him, personally. It's mainly maybe a DeAndre Ayton problem for me. I just don't trust him enough to elevate his game anymore in the postseason. We've seen Chris Paul kind of flame out in the playoffs recently, so I could definitely see that happening again. And then it just rides back on Devin Booker has to be super amazing. And all it takes is a couple off games in the series to get bounced from your superstar. That's all it takes, especially for this team.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, if they're going to make a run, it's got to be because Booker carries them. And yeah, maybe there's a world where he can carry them to the finals. That's unlikely because individuals usually don't carry you that far unless their name is LeBron James. But like you say, Gabe, they might get to a finals off the back of Devin Booker. Probably not likely, but yeah, I guess possible. But there ain't no chance that the team that is going to be giving regular minutes to Damian Lee and Josh Okogie in the finals is going to win an NBA Finals. There's just no way.
No fucking way. Nah. It's not happening.
Yeah, it would probably take an all-time collapse by whoever wins the East. Like,
it would take like who's the worst team in the East that has a chance of making a run?
You would need like the Cavs to get there and for Garland and Mitchell to get injured in the first 2 games.
I was really more so thinking like the Nets somehow find their way in the finals, and then KD's never in consistently, and then something happens with Kyrie off the court, and all of a sudden he's not playing, and then there you go.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, they would need luck to be on their side, like supremely. Like that would have to be a very lucky championship run.
But yeah, I'm not the kind of guy to predict the injury, so I don't think the Suns got it in them, man. I don't think the Suns got it in them.
It just shows you how tough it is to win. Like, it's tough, man. It seemed like their window, like last season, at around this time, they looked like by far the best team in basketball. Like, not even close. And a year later, it's like we're talking about should they trade Chris Paul.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. And meanwhile, their best player is like right in his prime, but they missed their window. And that's the irony of the NBA. They can have Devin Booker at age 26, but it's too late.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a byproduct. I think they knew what was about to happen when your franchise piece was probably, like 23 at the time. Trade for Chris Paul, who's like 35. I mean, the timeline wasn't going to match up, and clearly if Booker's your long-term guy, like Chris Paul is going to fizzle and fade out long before Booker was done playing meaningful ball. So it's pretty much was an inevitability that I think they probably are encountering sooner than they thought, but still something that they knew they would have to encounter and something they probably should have had a contingency plan for.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know how well they could have planned for it. I think they just need the draft really well now moving forward with whatever picks they have, which is a bit limited. But, I mean, Booker's your guy, but unless DA really takes a step forward, which we all kind of think he can, but he isn't doing, or unless Mikal Bridges takes another step forward beyond what he's done this year, or unless Cam Johnson continues to look even better, like they need one of their guys to take a jump, and they probably need the draft really well to actually have good depth. So there's an avenue for them to creep up into a winning window again over the next few years, as long as Booker continues to do his thing. But it's going to require some good internal development and some really good drafting just to make sure they actually have some level of competency on their bench. So it's going to be a tough go for them. They're still going to be good enough just because of Booker, and they'll still be in and around the playoff hunt, I imagine. But how well they can do from a drafting standpoint and internal development is kind of going to decide the rest of it.
I guess the bright side is, like, even if their window is closed, just like less than 5 years ago, this team was a laughingstock. around the NBA. So they completely turned that around to where like they're expected to be good. So I think, like you said, even if like they do move off of Chris Paul in the offseason, still got Devin Booker. You still have DA, who whether he takes a step forward or not, he's still a pretty talented guy. Like even his low level play sometimes is still solid enough to get by. Mikal Bridges continues to get better. Same thing with Cam Johnson. There's wiggle room to get better, if they're able to get off of Chris Paul's contract in the offseason for sure.
I think we've learned that no contract is untradeable as well. I think if they really committed to it and tried to trade Chris Paul, they could find a trade partner somewhere. Like I've seen John Wall get traded twice.
Maybe, but the problem is with that logic, which I do agree with for the time and place in which those trades happened, but all of those trades were bad contract for bad contract. And I don't know if there's a Chris Paul-like contract in the league right now.
Yeah, you got like the Evan Fournier contracts of the world and things like that, but there's not a $30+ million deal that's just horrendous.
No, there's some like 15, 20, 25 mil guys, but there's not really someone that's making 40 mil a year that's on that bad of a contract. And the only other one like that is Kevin Love, and his deal is done at the end of the year. So they might just be stuck with him. And hopefully that means that he's still good enough to give him some decent ball over the next few years. But he's probably going to be a Sun for the rest of his deal. And whether that's the end, who knows? But
he's a Sun lifer.
Is Kyle Lowry a Sun, man? Is that the trade, man? I don't know, man.
Not somehow. Chris Paul is definitely still better than Kyle Lowry. So, yeah, that would be a step back from Phoenix unless they got more in return, which I don't see happening.
Miami don't got nothing to trade away in return. Those guys got no depth as it is.
Like we got Haywood Highsmith for you, Orlando Robinson.
No, there's no shot. There's no shot. It would have to be like Lowry and Duncan for Chris Paul and Saric or something like that. Like, I don't think there's any world where that trade exists.
Give me Chris Paul, man.
Yeah, me too. Kyle Lowry's my guy, but Kyle Lowry CP, at almost age 37 is just not him anymore, unfortunately.
He's not.
He's definitely not him.
Man.
Now, if someone could make a move for him as like a backup point guard / sixth man in another world where Lowry isn't on a team that's trying to get back to a finals, I'd really, really like him in that role right now. But that world doesn't exist because Miami are playing decent basketball lately, so they're probably going to push again to try and make a bit of a finals run again.
Finals run find a way, bro.
A finals run,
Nah, it's not happening, but they're going to try and do it.
I'm not saying they're going to go on a finals run. I think at the very least, if the playoffs started today, it's Miami versus Philly. Somehow, it's gonna happen, bro. In some shape or form, they're gonna beat Philly. We're all gonna be like, how did Philly just collapse like that? And then they're gonna go into Milwaukee, and Milwaukee Miami 3 is gonna end up being like a super tight 7 game series. That's might be the best series of the playoffs, and then Miami's barely gonna lose. I'm calling it now, man. I mean, call me crazy. You probably didn't see them going down to the last shot of the conference finals last year either, but they did.
No, I knew they were going to beat Philly, whether Embiid played those first 2 games or not. I knew they were going to beat Philly. James Harden was terrible last year for his standards. It was bad. Yeah, I didn't think that they would beat Boston, but that's another story.
Yeah, I don't know. I've learned that I underestimate this Miami team in the playoffs way too much, but at the same time, if they don't get any depth at the deadline, I just don't know how much I can trust this team come playoff time. Because I know Jimmy's going to do his thing. Bam's better this year. They've got some decent guys around them, but there's just no wing or big depth at all on this team of quality. It just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I still won't count them out. and I still would never think that they're going to get easily beaten by anyone they play. But it makes it really tough for me to think that they're going to make any type of a run. But if anybody's going to do it, it's Miami, and they've proved that before on multiple occasions now. So
That's
who's to
true,
say,
man.
Who's to say?
That's true. It would help for them if they could make some type of move. Maybe the buyout market would be nice to them, for their sake. Because last year's team wasn't the greatest team, but I feel like they were just a lot more sound than this team this year. They just, they probably missed Hero in the conference final series because he was in and out the lineup. Kyle Lowry obviously was not great. It was really the Jimmy Butler show. Like, he carried them to a 7-game series chance to go to the final. So it's tough, and it's like the East I don't think it's as open this year. I think last year it was pretty open because Miami was the 1 seed. Nobody believed in them. Boston was the 2. They were playing hot, but it was like, can they get through that last gate? The Bucks, that was probably the team that everybody thought was the best. Chris Middleton goes down. So it was last year's East was a lot more open than this one. Now it's like the Celtics look really good. Milwaukee, we know once Middleton's back up to speed, they're going to be dominant. Philly is starting to look like they might be the best team. Like, the East is tough this year. And that's not even to mention, like, Cleveland, who's been playing, solid basketball too. So it's a tough conference, man. But like you said, if anybody's going to surprise the entire basketball world, it will be the Miami Heat.
Definitely. Speaking of the top teams in the East, I know we just mentioned the supposed Big Four and then Cleveland. How many teams do we legitimately think have a chance of actually getting to the finals in the Eastern Conference? We just discussed 8 or 9 teams that could potentially get to the Western Conference in the West. How many teams do we actually think can get out of the East realistically?
5.
4.
Yeah, I'd probably say 4 too. I want to include Cleveland, but I don't think
I got
they're there
5,
yet.
man. I've seen Donovan Mitchell do some crazy things in the playoffs, and still he's having a career year now. So I'm thinking if Donovan Mitchell's even better, and I've seen him do some of the stuff he's done in the postseason, plus a great supporting cast on both the offensive and the defensive side. Like, you have a guy on offense like Garland and guys on defense like Allen and Mobley. I think, like, they're tough on anybody, and I could really see them if luck falls their way and, a couple shots that are miss or make go in. I mean, they could realistically upset a lot of teams that people might think are better than them. And so, I mean, I think they have as much of a chance as Brooklyn. Brooklyn's shown a lot of inconsistency, and yeah, they had their great run once they figured everything out a couple months into the season, but it's like now KD's back out, and what will his status be? We don't really know. So they're just so inconsistent that then, like, Philly has their history of playoff collapses throughout this whole era. And so can I really put them a tier above Cleveland in terms of what can I get from them in the playoffs? I don't think I can, because besides those top 2, what has 3 and 4 proven to me that makes them better than Cleveland?
Something about having Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, man, that just sways me a little bit.
Yeah.
Something about them. I don't know what it is, but it's just something.
Yeah, for sure. Like, obviously, if KD's out, then like Brooklyn are not there for me. But if they're healthy, then yeah, I'll consider them. And even with the 76ers, like you say, they've been very inconsistent at times, although they're playing good basketball right now. And they've had some pretty bad playoff collapses. But ultimately, this is a team that still has an MVP candidate, that has a much better looking James Harden this year, and then still has Tyrese Maxey, still has Tobias Harris. They have a lot of guys who can get you a bucket, and their defense is looking better as of late. I just can't count them out when you have James Harden as your number 2 and Tyrese Maxey as your number 3. I mean, there's just so much offensive talent on that roster that come playoff time, it becomes really hard to defend that dynamic of an offense that has so many options.
Yeah, and you got Tobias Harris as your 4th option too. Can't forget about him.
Can't forget about Tobias.
No average player in the whole NBA, man.
Hey, what school did he go to? I feel like I've asked this.
You were orange.
Yeah.
He was either a Vol or a Longhorn, man. I feel like
he was Tennessee, man. Tennessee.
Okay, yeah, he was a Vol officer. I knew he wore orange because we've had the conversation. He looks like he'd wear orange.
Yeah. I would say the team that I would have to leave out is Cleveland. Just lack of playoff experience definitely just hinders me a little bit, man. I know what Gabe's going to say. The Suns a couple years ago. You got Chris Paul as your guy, man. You got Chris Paul there. You got Jay Crowder, who's been in the NBA Finals. You got guys, man. You got guys.
I've seen Donovan Mitchell do some crazy things in the playoffs, bro.
I have seen Mitchell have some really good playoff series, man, but I don't know. It's a little different, man. It's a little different. He's young, having that experience. Chris Paul was already a wirely vet, having that experience, so it's a little different. It's just a little different. But
Chris Paul was a perennial choker, bro.
So you say.
Nah, that's a casual take, bro. He had a lot of bad luck.
Yeah, I can say Donovan Mitchell's a choker too, then, because he couldn't beat Paul George. He couldn't beat playoff Pete. But anyways, that's besides the point.
He couldn't beat Terrence Mann, bro.
Yeah, I really do like that Cavs team, but I just feel like experience matters, especially when all the teams that you're going up against are seasoned. Like every team that you're going up against has real deal playoff experience. So that might just hinder them a little bit. I still think that they can make some noise once they get there, but it's different in the playoffs, man. Like we even seen like last year, like Memphis was up and down in the playoffs. Even a team like the Celtics were a little up and down in the postseason, like just having young guys being the leaders. It's a little different, man. That's the one thing that really holds me back from them right now. And I just wish they had a little more jump shooting too. That's the other thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think the other thing that holds me back a little bit on Cleveland too is like all the teams above them have a proven second option. Obviously, Boston have Jaylen Brown, who was arguably the first option towards the back half of the playoffs last year. Even if the Bucks don't have Chris Middleton healthy, they still have Drew Holiday, who's proven himself. The Sixers have James Harden and Tyrese Maxey, who, despite being very young, had some very good moments in the playoffs last year. Obviously, the Nets have Kyrie. And that's no disrespect to Darius Garland, but like you mentioned, there's a lack of playoff experience there, and he's just not quite on the level of those other guys. So that's no disrespect to Garland, because he's obviously a great player and an all-star caliber guy, and Cleveland are a great team, but that lack of experience, having those moments in the playoffs where you can be that guy, you can take the lead, you can make those shots. Mitchell might be able to do that, but if a team starts blitzing Mitchell, is Garland going to be that guy? I don't know if he is, and that's a little bit of a hesitancy for me as well.
I want to say I think he can, but the playoffs it's just different, man. Like every shot means so much more when you're in the postseason. You got to see guys on that stage to know if they can do it or not. Because we've seen guys that we thought were the best of the best. We've seen James Harden fizzle out in postseasons, and he's one of the best scorers of our generation. So it's definitely possible that guys get to the postseason and they don't elevate.
Definitely. I mean, there's exceptions to the rule. I mean, saw Anthony Edwards absolutely ball out last year in the playoffs, but Anthony Edwards is also probably on a different level than Darius Garland, at least as the scoring option goes. So
definitely
remains to be seen. But if nothing else, hopefully he gets some playoff experience this year. Maybe they get a win around out of it, depending on their seeding and their matchup. But if nothing else, barring an absolutely injury collapse like they had last year, they should at least be able to hold down a playoff spot this year.
Y'all hear me out. Was Rui the problem in Washington? I gotta ask the question, bro. I need you guys to look at Washington. I know we do all the hating, so I have to bring it up since we hate on Washington so much. They've now won 6 games in a row, only 2 games below 500, in the 9 seed, looking pretty solid lately. What do we make of Washington basketball now? Very, very easy stretch of games for them. I will admit, an incredibly easy stretch. But their next 2 is the Pistons and the Trailblazers. They get through that and they are 500. How do we feel?
I feel that they're still mid because they're about to be 500, and that's just how Washington are. All seriousness, no, like they did need to move off a forward. There was a bit of a logjam there for sure, but like you say, it's been an easy schedule. They haven't played the hardest of teams. Their best win being against the Dallas team. outside of that, I mean, they're just not great, are they? Like, they're just not great. They've got some good production from some role players over the last few games, which has been good. Gafford's looked nice in the starting lineup at times. But I mean, reality of the situation is Ruby gone isn't making that much of a difference. They're without KP right now, but Gafford's still holding down the fort at center. He's doing his job, so they're just a fine team, and they're going to go on some runs because they are a solid team. And when they're playing well, they can probably win 4, 5, 6 in a row at times. But they're also going to have times where they're going to lose 5 or 6 in a row because when Bradley Beal and Kyle Kuzma and KP are your number one options, it's just not great. It's just not great. So they're going to keep themselves in the play-in conversation because that's what they're built to do. They're built to be a play-in team that never gets a good pick. And I guess that's what their front office is happy with. So good for them, I guess. But this is just what they are.
And that's like the worst place to be in as a franchise. Just play in, no direction. Yeah, it sucks because, like you said, we've seen them win like 4, 5, 6 games in a row this season. Also seen them lose like 7, 8, 9 like straight games. Like it's definitely possible for this team, man. Like I don't even know what to think of them anymore personally. Like good for them that they're about to be 500. Good for them. If that gets them excited, then I guess I love it too, man.
I wish they would do a fire sale, man. I see
they won't.
Kristaps just came back. You know, there's everything going on with Kuzma. Like, I know Beal is stuck there forever, but gosh, some team that needs a star, bro. Then it's just this is the team, bro. This is the team that is like, if your team wants to get better, there's a player that they could probably use from Washington. And is Washington going to part with that player? Probably not.
I don't understand why they don't want to trade Kuzma. Like, it frustrates me so much that they don't want to move off of him because I don't see why he resigns. I just don't. Reports have indicated he doesn't want to resign. He's obviously going to opt out because he's going to get a ton more money in free agency than the 13 mil he'll get if he opts in. It doesn't make any sense. You trade away Rui, who you can re-sign, and instead you apparently want to not trade your guy who might walk in free agency. I don't get the mentality of this front office other than they want to be a perennial playing team. And hey, at least they're going to be consistent. I'll give them that much because they're going to be sitting in the play-in for a long time at this rate.
I would hate to be in that fan base.
Yeah, I would rather be a fan of any other team right now.
Not gonna say the word, bro.
Yeah. You've been good, man. We're like almost an hour in. You have not said it once. Not one time. Not one time. God, yeah. We might have to stop talking about the Wizards, bro.
I had to bring it up though, just because because we've been hating so heavy. I feel like I just had to bring it up when they were playing good. Out of fairness.
No positivity for the Wizards. I'm sorry. No positivity for the Wizards.
Yeah, I only speak positively about. I like seeing Danny crash the boards, man. He rebounds like a monster. That's all I got.
Yeah, I will speak well of Wizards players, just not the team as a collective. And that is where I will stand until this team is out of the Bradley Beal era, which is probably another 4 years because he's probably not getting moved. So
he must love DC, man. If he loves it there, good for him.
Oh yeah, I got no problems with Beal. If he wants to get his bag and hang out, good for him. That's on Washington for wanting to keep him around and not ever traded him. I mean, they could have traded him and got some value back and restarted, but they decided not to trade him, and Beal hung out and took his bag. So fair play to him, man. If I could get 250 mil, give it to me. Got nothing against that.
Definitely. There been any other rumors? I saw something earlier that says like it said like I think it was Chris Haynes' report saying like a lot of people in Toronto have been unhappy.
Yeah,
this season.
It's one of those things where it's like They're tied for like the 6th worst record in the league, and this is a team that was supposed to make the playoffs this year. So I'd kind of hope that some guys are unhappy. Like I would hope that a team that was supposed to be pretty good that is now 5 games under 500 isn't kind of sitting around in the locker room all happy and jolly into the locker room every day. Like there should be some frustrations in there. Now, whether all of those frustrations are with winning versus whether some of those frustrations are I just don't want to be in Toronto, that's a whole other question, and only the guys in the locker room can really answer that. But I wouldn't doubt that there's some guys that want some new scenery, bit of a different role. Maybe Freddie wants a bit of new scenery. He's been in Toronto his whole career. Maybe OG wants a bit of a bigger role. Does he deserve it? That's another question, but he might want to spread his wings and have a bit less extreme Jeremy Grant type season where he can prove himself a bit more in a bigger role. So there's probably a couple of guys like that, but I'd imagine for the most part that this is just a team that had really good expectations and they haven't met them. And it's probably similar to the Pacers last year where this was supposed to be a playoff team, not a great one, but a decent one. And instead they're hanging out just outside the play-in tournament. And I'd imagine there's a lot of frustrations in that locker room and front office right now because of it.
Yeah, well said. They just had that roster construction, and I like that you made the Indiana comparison because Indiana forever was one of those teams where it's like, wow, they have a great supporting cast, but like no big star to support. And while like the Raptors' top end talent is probably better than the top end talent of those Indiana teams, it's still just like there's not a superstar player on this roster that's going to take them towards a title. But it feels like all the players on this roster are players who could be contributing to title-winning basketball. And so a lot of them probably are in this thing of like, oh, like, yeah, this team could be good, but I feel like my services could be best utilized trying to be great somewhere. And so it just – there probably is some dissonance there with just like a lot of players for – whether it could be a bigger role and they prove themselves individually, or whether that's just they go somewhere, they're a role player, but they win. Either way, Toronto's kind of just like that middle ground, and so it doesn't really accomplish either goal.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. I feel like we've just been hearing Raptors rumors, like especially like centered around OG for like the last couple seasons. Then they've been kind of hot this season since the team hasn't been as good. We've had discussions on this podcast about whether or not they should make moves. And, we've made points about, it would be good to hit a little reset and reasons why maybe they should just go ahead, keep what they have for right now and wait until the offseason. Like it's a lot. I still am in the camp. I don't think that we'll see anything drastic happen with this team right now. I feel like we might have already seen it if it was going to happen, but who knows? Maybe we'll get a surprise at the deadline. Who knows, man? But yeah, just they're the team that really controls like if there are any big moves at the deadline because they have the pieces that I think, like Gabe said, a lot of teams would sought after that would help improve them to be champions.
Definitely. I mean, there's just not going to be that many big names being moved, and the only other options is if the Bulls sell house, which it seems pretty quiet on that front. So I don't know how likely that is. We know Levine's not being moved, so it's only a matter if DeMar or Vooch get moved, and that doesn't seem that likely at this point. And honestly, the only other big name, if you want to call it a big name, is like John Collins, just because he's always in rumors, and maybe the Hawks feel they need to do something, but it's John Collins, and we hear about him all the time, so I don't want to dive any further than that. So, like you say, Toronto are probably the place to go if any big move happens, and otherwise it's Jay Crowder or a Danny Green and assets, or it's a Peyton Pritchard because that's the trade deadline this year, man. Yep. But
he actually just said he wants a bigger role, so he'll probably, if he's not gone trade deadline, he's gone in the offseason.
Hey, come to Toronto, man. We need a backup point guard. I'll take him.
Hey, you know who beat the allegations though?
Miles Turner.
Miles Turner beat the allegations, man.
So we need somebody new on the Mount Rushmore if that's the case. Is Jay Crowder? I mean, given how much he should have been traded by now, he might have to temporarily replace.
I don't know. I feel like
I
it's
think-
been not
I
as
think it's got to be
significant.
Collins. I think John's the next guy up.
It's
He's been in there for
John
a couple of years now.
John Collins, OG.
He's damn near the goat of the Mount Rushmore of we're gonna trade this guy. He's in straight talks and he's still on the team, still making a lot of money.
John Collins, OG. Watch out for James Wiseman, bro. He might be kind of
Sneaky.
close.
Nah, OG's on the Mount Rushmore for sure.
For sure.
OG's up there. Damn, gotta be another name. Eric
I don't know
Gordon.
if there is.
Eric
Jakob
Gordon is it?
Eric
Jakob
Gordon.
Poeltl,
could be
man.
up there.
Jakob Poeltl.
Jakob, yeah.
Poeltl's a
He's
good
got to
one.
get moved. That's the other guy who's got to get moved.
Yes.
There's no way the Spurs don't trade him. I don't know where he goes yet, but he's definitely getting moved. Portland,
Random shit.
I wouldn't mind that, but that's
Who would
just
like
'cause
that?
Move Nurk the other way if you need. I definitely
Is
wouldn't
it-
be opposed to that, but
Is it? I forget where I heard this. I think maybe it was an anonymous GM or something. But is it crazy to say that Walker Kessler is better than Yusuf Nurkic right now? I don't think. He
no,
is.
that is definitely not a crazy statement. Although I'm very biased on that take, but
Oh,
I don't think that's a crazy statement at all.
Nurk ain't been good, man. Streets is saying Drew Eubanks has been just as productive, if not better.
Yeah, that's a bit crazy. That's
Oh,
a bit
man.
crazy. 'Cause I don't know, like Nurk's still been decent on the offensive end, and he's actually been shooting the three ball pretty nice this year, which is a nice little addition. But
He's always been cool offensively.
he just hurts my head sometimes on defense, and on some teams you can get away with that, but Portland's just not that team. It's just not.
The plight of the bad defensive center, man. You just cannot escape it.
No, can never escape it. You can never escape it. Maybe one day I will find an offensive center who isn't Jokic that I can fully appreciate and maybe give him some more credit to team winning basketball, but I haven't found him yet. So it might take a while.
I'm trying to think of the name.
There's some guys that I've liked. Like I really liked Al Jefferson, but he wasn't winning basketball games on the teams he was on.
Hell of a floor raiser, though.
Definitely a good floor raiser, that's for sure.
Heck of a floor raiser.
Very good at making sure you don't get a top lottery pick.
He was a technician on the block, bro.
He was.
He had one of the best jump hooks I've seen.
He really did. Really did.
It's a bygone era, man. You just don't see stuff like that anymore.
I mean, just technical over the left shoulder, right? Oof, just mean. So face up, 15-foot midi. Oof. Big Al was nice. Him and Kemba, they had a couple of years where they was like, all right, they decent. They might make the playoffs.
They were decent, pushing for an
Hey,
8
man.
seed, doing the Nikola Vucevic, Aaron Gordon thing.
Yeah, back in my day, man, we just banged in the post, and whoever had the better up and under, that's who was going to the finals, man.
Hey, what you mean back in your day? You started watching basketball like 6 years ago.
Hey, bro.
My bad, like
It was
7-8 years ago.
it was an era transition, man. It was an era transition.
When did you start? It was like 2014, 15 or 2015? 16?
Somewhere mid 2010s, bro. The beginning of the Cavs Warriors rivalry.
We'll go
Bro,
2014.
so yeah, low key, when I started watching basketball and got into it, the center position was pretty dead. The whole era of DeMarcus Cousins is the best center in the NBA. The position was dead. And that's no slight at Boogie. It's the fact that it was literally like Boogie and the rest are nobodies.
Yeah, that's still around the time where it was still like most teams had two bigs on the court still.
Yeah, they did.
Like
It was
still
really
David
like
West, Roy Hibbert type of time in.
Dudes like Andre Drummond, DeAndre Jordan in like top 5 positional discussions. Hassan Whiteside in top 5, top 10 positional discussions. It's like crazy.
that was really the dark ages of center play in the NBA.
They thought that Steph Curry killed the 5.
Yeah.
There was really just no good 7-footers at the time. That's just the way it was. I mean, you throw Wendell Carter in that era, man's an all-star lock every year.
God. My goodness. Yeah.
And now you wouldn't even think about it. Like
That's
It's
like
like-
NBA first team level, man.
It's like that was like the lob threat big type of era. Just catch lobs. Like that's when that kind of big was introduced. It was just so weird not seeing any bigs not being able to put a simple post up to mine or any simple post move. Like it was so weird seeing that because I was just watching Dwight Howards, the Al Jeffersons, guys like that were sound on the block. Like they could get you 20 points on post moves. Like it was just weird seeing like DeAndre Jordan ain't getting post touches. Drummond's not getting post touches. At least he was showing us he shouldn't be getting post touches. Like, yeah, that dark ages for center play was a time, man. It was a time. Boogie made the position somewhat, I don't even want to say decent, but he was the only one doing something with it.
Thank God he was around, that's for sure. Because otherwise, I don't even want to know who would have been calling the best center of that era. I don't want to know.
I think we finally found a good middle ground. I feel like it was like they had the 3-point we had that 3-point revolution, and then it went into like, oh, let's only take threes and layups. That's it. That analytical Houston Rocket style of basketball. But now it's like, I feel like it really has balanced out where I feel like at least every good team usually has some guy with a good in-between game, and especially like the top players in the league always have that rounded out, whether it's a little bit of a post game, a little bit of a mid-range pull-up. Like I think the old mid-range heavy era and then that couple years stretch of just all threes and layups has really blended together nicely to have a good modern product.
Yeah, it's definitely a healthier balance now, which I'm really happy to see because personally I'm a point guard who's too small to be good in the paint and has a terrible 3-point shot. So I lived on the post and in the mid-range. So it's nice to see that balance be back. And there's still so many guys that are just so talented with the mid-range shot. I mean, of course, DeMar comes to mind as just a true mid-range guy, but there's so many guys that have still got so much talent in that area. And you get some point guards that are really good in that. And you get some bigs like a DeAndre Ayton, who's a lethal mid-range shooter. So it's just nice to see that is still a part of the game because as much as James Harden was fun to watch and as much as that Houston team had a lot of success, it kills a bit of the nuance of watching a basketball game when it's layup, 3, layup. There isn't really much nuance to an offense at that point. It's just how can we get a 3? How can we get a layup? And if those are falling, then those are falling, but there's definitely a lot of value to making sure a defense actually has to play you on all areas of an offense and not just running you off the 3-point line and protecting the rim.
Nah, definitely. Like I've even seen James Harden a lot. He takes a lot of mid-range shots now, so even he kind of learned like, yeah, you gotta at least be a threat in the mid-range. Like when we was playing basketball growing up, if you got closed out on the 3, you're stepping in, taking the midi. Like that's just how it was. You had to be a threat in that area, man. And it's just such a good shot to have in your arsenal. Like just if you're playing basketball anywhere, it's such a good shot to have because most times it's available because we always get taught the long 2 is a bad shot. Step back, take the 3. Sometimes the long 2 is the best shot that you can get, honestly. So yeah, it's always good to have in the package.
Definitely.
I have not heard the name Al Jefferson in so long. Like I'm kind of stuck thinking about Big Al.
Man, I love watching him play.
I'm just thinking about like just forgotten like players from that era. Like I misheard. I was listening to a video earlier and I misheard. They said Danny Green, but I thought they said Danny Granger. I'm like, damn, Danny Granger was so good.
Yeah, he was so good.
He was nice. Injuries ruined. Him and PG might have been a lethal duo for years if he didn't get hurt. Maybe.
Yeah, it's a shame that couldn't work out because that could have been a really good duo. They still would have lost to LeBron, but they would have put up a heck of a lot better of a fight. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Let me throw it back. What jersey do you see Al Jefferson in?
Personally, when I think of him, like watching him, I always see him in a Hornets jersey because I feel like they were on TV more when he was in Charlotte for some reason. Maybe it's because they played against LeBron 4 times a year. But I would have to say, for me, maybe Utah. Maybe
Looking at
really
his
good
numbers, his numbers were almost the best in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Which feels weird because it feels
I
like
wasn't watching him in Minnesota though. Like,
yeah, when
We
I
all
think of him,
know.
I would think
Yeah.
more Utah and Charlotte. So it's very surprising to me that Minnesota is like his statistical peak.
he was in Minnesota for what, like 3 seasons?
For 3 years.
He was
Yeah,
he was everywhere for 3 years. Boston 3 years, Minnesota 3 years, Utah 3 years, Charlotte 3 years, and then Indiana 2. Then he's out the league.
Forgot about Indiana. Damn. I just think of Charlotte, and then it's just like he retired. That's how I see
Yeah,
him.
I don't think of him with the Pacers at all. But yeah, I probably think of him as a Hornet. That's definitely when I watch the most. So
Yeah,
Then he went to China, man. 2018-19.
he was probably killing in China.
Dude, I love
can mess
those-
with him on the block, man.
Those memes, bro. Get ready to learn Chinese, buddy. That's like my favorite. Every time
Hope he's-
somebody plays bad.
I hope he's bilingual.
in 10 games, he put up 15, 7.5.
That's solid for an old guy. Solid for an old guy.
Hey, that would have been his best number since 2014.
He came straight out of high school, didn't he?
I believe so. Yeah.
He was one of the last guys, I think.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, came out of Mississippi. Straight out of high school, man.
Out of Miz,
2004, yeah. 2004. Him, Dwight Howard, and Emeka Okafor. Yeah.
Those are I don't remember anybody else in that class. What college did Emeka go to? UConn, bro. Come on, man. You can't trick me.
Oh my.
Can't trick me, man.
He just knows, bro. He knows.
Yeah. Yeah, they thought Hashim Thabit was going to be like Emeka, but nah, he wasn't.
Yeah, no, he was not him.
Ben Gordon,
Not him.
Emeka Okafor and Ben Gordon came back to back out of UConn, man. UConn was killing.
Ben Gordon's one of my favorite, like, I don't want to call him mid because he was really good, but like just one of them lesser tier players, like, you know, role.
Wasn't he on that Chicago team that took the Celtics to the limit, like D Rose's rookie year?
Yep, he was damn near unstoppable in that series, man. He made everything.
Oh, Luol Deng. Oh, active NBA. I think there's only one active NBA player that was in this draft, man. Shout out to
Oh, hold on. Who is that player?
You wanna guess? I'll give it to you, man.
Who is that player? It's not that many old guys in the league. Like it should be kind of.
It's a young man's league, yeah.
What college did he go to?
Arizona.
Oh, Iggy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Drafts had him.
He's employed in the NBA. We'll put it that way.
Sean Livingston's been out for a while. J.R. Smith's been out for a while now.
Yeah.
Other guys this draft has been in.
Damn. Only one player from 2004. Only two.
Trevor Ariza's even been out for a while now. I feel like maybe
he
not as
played
long as
last season.
Yeah,
he
played
last year. He wasn't good, but he did play minutes.
Yeah, he was supposed
He
to
was
be
a
one of the
Laker.
saviors for the Lakers,
Yeah,
man.
he was a Laker.
Before there was
Yeah.
Kendrick Nunn, the savior, there was Trevor Ariza.
To be fair, though,
Everybody was supposed to be the Lakers savior last year.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
he hasn't played over like 32 games in one spot since like 2018.
Yeah.
2018, he played 43 for the Wizards. He has had a for real like long stint with the team, like more than half a season since
Since he's
the Rockets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. He was out of high school too, wasn't he? Or did he go to college?
He went.
He went to college.
God, where did he go? That's a good one.
If I tell you where he went to high school, you might know.
He went to. No, wait.
Not the only Laker legend to go to this school, man.
All I can picture him is in like UCLA.
Same as Laker legend Lonzo Ball, man.
I thought you were gonna say Russell Westbrook.
Shout. That's a good shout too. Multiple Laker legends.
Nah.
Yeah, 2006 is the most recent draft that's got at least 2 guys playing in the league still.
Didn't Kareem go to UCLA?
That's funny. No, that's.
I'm literally sitting here thinking, like, did Kareem go to UCLA, bro?
Laker legend. I'm talking about Laker legend Lonzo Ball. I'm funny. I'm hilarious.
But yeah, he did go to UCLA.
Oh God, yeah, that's funny. Dang, he was always destined to be a Laker then.
For real.
He was destined. Speaking of, LeBron's pretty damn close to breaking that record. Like, maybe by the time we record our next episode,
he might have it. Yeah.
Yeah. If he would have played tonight, then yeah, definitely. But I think he set out tonight. I heard Jeff Van Gundy say he'll probably want to break it out. Makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
He needs 117 points. For LeBron, that is probably literally like 4 games at this point.
He's basically dropping 35 every night just to keep them competitive.
Yeah.
Jesus.
He still played like 4,000 less minutes than Kareem. You know, I was thinking about this, and I want to get you guys' take on this. And I've seen this before on Twitter, but I never really understood like why it wasn't like a huge thing. But why do we value like the regular season exclusive numbers more than we value the regular plus postseason numbers? Because it's all basketball games, and it's like the one that nobody really cares about is like the postseason numbers in the most important games.
I think it's just because of the larger sample size. I think is all it is. But I mean, there's definitely an argument that playoff numbers should be looked at way more. The problem is then is the sample size, right? Because if I want to talk about Jokic and why he's a better offensive center than Cat, I can look at playoff numbers, but then there's the argument that Cat's got such a smaller sample size, right? So I think that's probably where a lot of the dilemma comes in. But if you want to individually look at how productive a player is and how much he is conducive of winning basketball, then there definitely should be a bigger place for playoff numbers outside of when it's the playoffs, because they'll get brought up when it's playoff time, but it just doesn't get mentioned until then. And there probably should be a spot for it, at least more than there already is.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I agree with what Devin said. Like, I can see where the argument could be, like, we should value playoff numbers just as much or maybe more. But my thing is, like, to put up those kind of numbers, like to be at the top of all-time regular season lists, the longevity that takes, you got to be excellent for at least, 12, 14 seasons, like, plus to reach the top of those lists. Like, some of those records are, like, utterly incredible, like, really insane. Like, LeBron's had to be this good for 20 years to get to the scoring title. Like, that is so impressive. So it's just like, I feel like that's why they might hold a little more value. Maybe that's why they don't do playoff plus or whatever. But I think it's good to keep them separated. Like, look at, regular season records, playoff records, keep them separated. I think that's good. I think we should value playoff records a little more too. I feel like maybe those don't get talked about as much. Like, LeBron's been the leading scorer in postseason history for half a decade now, or maybe half a decade plus. Like, it's been a long time since he broke Jordan's record. So maybe like things like that should be flowered a little more. But I do see the argument, Gabe, because like LeBron passed Kareem, I think, last season in all around total points, or maybe a couple years ago. Like, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's just it's always kind of stuck out to me, especially recently, that I'm like, it's always like stats, and numbers are always like the huge thing when talking about like regular season performances. But I think like whenever you're like comparing people and they're like people start talking about postseason and stuff, it's just like, oh, well, like this player went to the finals or this player advanced in this series and beat this team. And that becomes way more about like winning, whereas like regular season, I feel like is way more about the numbers. And I feel like there is a significant split there.
Yeah, it's like regular season, everybody has the opportunity to play 82 games. Playoffs, it's like not everybody is playing at least into the NBA finals. Like that's just, the case because only 2 teams make it that far each year. But everybody has, at least you would hope, the opportunity to play 82 games every season.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
It's a good conversation, though.
Definitely is, for sure. I think there's definitely an argument for it to be more involved because, like you say, if you're just discussing team success independent of player success, you can say Anthony Edwards got knocked out in the first round last year, but you can also say Anthony Edwards in his first playoff series averaged 25 points a game. And that paints 2 very different pictures, and one is a lot more representative of how Anthony Edwards actually played during the postseason.
Definitely, man. For sure. It's crazy how Ant was like coming out first playoff series and hooping like that. He was even really good in the playing game too. Like he was one of the main reasons why they won that game.
Yeah, he really was. He was, he was ridiculous in the postseason. So good. And he's been putting up comparable numbers over the last couple months too. So
yeah. Who's going to be the guy this year that makes that playoff splash in their first appearance? I feel like it has to, like the guy that probably has the opportunity the most to do it is Darius Garland.
Yeah, Garland could. Laurie could do something crazy out of the play-in too.
Yeah, I could see him going for like 35, 6 made threes, 10 boards.
Yeah, definitely. If he has a big performance and gets them into the playoffs, that'd be a pretty big deal for sure.
I know who's popping off in their first playoff series.
Who?
De'Aaron Fox. Give it to me.
Good answer.
De'Aaron Fox. Hey, my other answer, has Zion played? I don't think Zion played playoff basketball, right?
No, he's not.
I was going to say, Zion. Give me Zion. I feel like Zion has to dazzle if he plays playoff minutes.
That reminds me, B.I. was damn good last year, too. Can't forget about him. He was really good.
Yeah, he was. He was very good.
I think it was, I'm not going to name their account because their account kind of irritates me, but they posted something the other day that was like, the Pelicans are so-and-so in their last however many games. What do they need to do to get better? I'm just like, get healthy. Like,
yeah,
they were the 1 seed when they had one of their all-stars playing. Just
yeah,
get healthy, dude. Like, come on now.
Yeah, for real. Like that depth is good, and CJ's had some good games. But I mean, when you're without an All-NBA guy and an All-Star, you're gonna struggle. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And any team that doesn't is just wicked. And there's not many teams that are built like that. And obviously the Pels aren't, and you can't knock them for it because most teams aren't built to have success without their number 1 and number 2 guy.
And they're such a young team, and the way Zion was playing, any other year would have been MVP basketball. Like he was playing that good.
Yeah,
when he was in the lineup. So it's like you're obviously gonna miss that. Like what he provides is not normal. You can't just replace that no matter how much depth you have. You're not just gonna replace that overnight. Just hopefully he's back, after All-Star break or whenever. Because that team was so fun. We were talking about them like they have an opportunity to make a little bit of noise in the postseason. I mean, they've just been missing their guys, man. Like I don't remember the last time I saw Zion, B.I., and CJ all on the court at the same time. I feel like I was still working games every Saturday at Ohio State. Like, that's how long ago that was.
Yeah, it has been a while. And, I mean, those guys have all missed a bit of time. Even Herb Jones has been in and out of the lineup on a few occasions this year, too. So, I mean, they're just struggling to stay healthy. But once they're healthy, they're going to be good. The good sign is that quite a few of their depth guys have had much better years than they did last year. So once they get their guys back, they should be good and rolling again. JV's been a little bit better than he was to start the year. Alvarado's had a very good year. Dyson Daniels had some good minutes. Of course, he's missed a bit of time with injury too. We've also had Trey Murphy had a bit more of a consistent year. We've had Najee Marshall take a step out of nowhere. Like, their depth guys look a lot better than they do last year. Not to mention the fact that Zion looks better than he ever has. So they get healthy, they're more than fine.
I saw a Kira Lewis appearance, I think, yesterday.
He's finally back from injury. Finally.
I forgot he was rostered, man. That was a lottery pick just 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
13th overall pick.
15, 6, and 3 against Milwaukee.
Yeah. He's been back for 7 games now, and he's actually been shooting the ball pretty well, which, considering how long he's been since playing basketball, is good to see. So I don't know how much of a role he has on this team once everyone's back healthy. That's the only concern for him. But I mean, if he keeps playing good basketball, if nothing else, he'll get moved somewhere next year during the offseason, and someone will give him some minutes. I mean, he's a former lottery pick. Someone will give him a shot. So
for sure,
good for him.
He's a
man.
Detroit Piston, man. He's a Detroit Piston.
Hey, maybe Killian Hayes just got moved to the bench the other night, so he might be a Piston. Might be. Yeah, but like guys from that draft class, like Aaron Nesmith got a second chance. He's made the most of it. Jalen Smith got his second opportunity with a second team. Like, yeah. So maybe Kira Lewis is the next guy up.
Yeah, for sure. Even Josh Green within his own team has had a bigger role this year and has looked a lot better.
Yeah. Just takes time, man, for some dudes. Like, not everybody's gonna pop off from day one. Even as talented as younger players are these days, that just means the talent in the league is, just as good all the way through rosters. I think that's why we're seeing these scoring explosions, because it's like every team has super talented players all the way through. Even the teams that are tanking still have really talented rosters at the same time.
Speaking of scoring explosions, man, literally Luka just got done dropping 53 again. Like 5 minutes ago.
And they needed all 53 of those to beat the Pistons, which is a little bit worrisome.
53 to beat the Pistons, man.
They had one other guy in double figures. But, hey, that's Dallas basketball, man.
I was watching their game a little bit the other night when Luka didn't play against Utah. It was really the Spencer Dinwiddie show and nobody else showed up. Tim Hardaway didn't show up. They just look bad. Like, they just look terrible, bro. I'm like,
I think Golden State might be back, man. I don't know.
They have been winning games on the road again, which is nice to see. They've won about as many games on the road in the last month as they had the entire 3 months previous. So at least they're winning road games again, which is a good start.
Yeah.
But I'm still not bought in. I'm definitely
but it's the thing that if I was a Warrior fan, I would be like feeling good is the fact that, once again, full circle moment, we started this podcast talking about the West. Back talking about the West. The West is not blowing anybody away. Even as big as the lead Denver may have over, the Warriors right now in the standings, they're not blowing the Warriors away. The Warriors will walk into that series like, we can beat these dudes again. We just beat them last year. Should have swept them, but we'll beat them again. But that's how they're going to walk into that series.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect. This is the perfect way of how I feel about the West right now. Is I'm not bought in on anyone, but I'm not really checked out on anyone either. I'm just prove it to me. You got your chance. Show up in the playoffs, man. Yeah, even the Kings, man. Kings look good in their first few games. Yeah, give it to me. Kings winning the conference. Why not?
What if the Kings go from not making the playoffs for like 17 years to just casual finals run? What then? What happens?
Imagine the person that was bold enough to put money on that before the season. They're cashing out. That dollar probably turned into like 10,000 right off rip.
That'd be some wild money for sure.
Kings should beat the Timberwolves in OT tonight, man. De'Aaron Fox legacy game.
That would be some storybook stuff. Like if they just made the finals, like We're just hoping they hang on and make the playoffs and don't have to run into the play-in. That's all I'm hoping for.
I think they're pretty. I think they're getting pretty snug in there, man. As the race continues to develop,
They're getting there, but it's just like it's Sacramento.
Yeah, like
Nothing
there's
is
still
secure, man.
only 2.5 games up. The West is so tight.
I feel like they're just like in their own tier. It's like the Grizzlies and the Nuggets are like the cream of the crop, and then it's like the Kings. The Kings feel a little bit better, more consistent than like 4 through everybody else. 4 through everybody else I've seen just go on some crazy losing spell. I feel like I haven't seen the Kings have a meltdown this year yet.
I think they may have lost like a 4-game skid at once, but that's really it. It's been a while since that happened. I think that's around when they were like a 500 basketball team.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Warriors get up with them at some point. Wouldn't be surprised to see the Timberwolves get up there. And once the Pelicans get healthy, they should climb back up a bit more too. But I don't think the Clippers make their way any higher than they are. And I definitely don't think the Suns do. I think they're just locked in the play-in. I don't care that they're a half game out of the 5 seed. They're not going up. Not unless Booker just goes crazy, which possible. It's possible. But
It is possible.
It's so hard for the Suns because I feel so much better about most of the teams above them. But Booker is he's just the difference, man. He's just the difference. And their defense is good enough that as long as Booker is absolutely balling, then they can just get enough wins to get it done.
That's the
They're
one
still
thing about
closing
that
out
team.
against the Raptors, man.
It's the one thing about that team. Defensively, it doesn't matter if they're playing Saban Lee, Damian Lee, and just as long as Mikal Bridges is out there healthy, that is a good defensive team. Like that.
Yeah.
And Mikal Bridges does not miss games, so he's out there. They're a good defensive team, no matter who was on the court with him.
Yeah,
They just took care of business. Mikal Bridges light 29 to beat the Raptors.
I think he had 16 in the first quarter.
yeah.
DeAndre Ayton legacy game, man. 22 and
Man,
13.
he put up a stinker in Toronto, so he had to get it back tonight because Koloko had his number that night, which is hilarious because supposed to be all-star caliber center coming in against a team with no center is supposed to be eating, and I think he made 2 shots the whole night, and the game-winning shot essentially was a Koloko 3-point shot. So it was a nice full circle game for DA to have to come and bounce back tonight against the Raptors. That's for sure.
I think Ayton he might have had either a really good game the other night or he put up another stinker.
That would be the way for DA. It's
I
one
don't
way
know.
or the other. He put up 23 and 8 against the Spurs the other night.
That's good for him.
He was dominating, man. What can I
Anytime
say?
he scores in the 20s and he's, getting the shot attempts up, I just like to see him at least getting the shot attempts up at least.
Yeah.
But not shooting that damn turnaround mid-range. Even though he be making it, it just irritates me so much because it's like he predetermines in his head when I catch this ball, I'm shooting that shot. Like he doesn't even try and fill out the defense. He just says, I'm turning and I'm shooting.
Yeah, I much prefer his initial face-up midi off the catch than his turnaround.
Yeah,
It's just it looks I don't know if he could at least make it look sometimes like he's trying to get to the rim or get involved in some other type of action, but like you say, it's just not how it works, unfortunately. But yeah, I think he's going to be the next guy similar to Bam in previous years, where it's like, yeah, we just need a bit more aggression, and we've kind of already been there, but at least Bam's kind of getting to that point where he's got a little bit more aggression on offense, and Ayton's just not there yet, and I don't know when he will. I don't know if Chris Paul needs to be off the team for that to happen, for there to be more shots to go around, but he's definitely the next guy up as far as bigs, where it's just the talent's there. Just we need a bit more of it. We need a bit more consistency. We need a bit more offensive aggression, and it's just not there yet, which in year 5 is getting a little bit frustrating at this point. I mean, he might still get there, but it is year 5 now. There's only so many excuses that can be had for that at this point when you're almost 300 games into your NBA career.
Yeah,
He's got to take some advice from MVP, bro. The way I've seen it, Embiid play the past couple of weeks, this man, the definition, big man aggression, man.
Yeah, he took that Jokic matchup personal.
He did. He really did.
God, he was frying Jokic. And I credit Jokic for, he defended him the entire game. Embiid was not always defending Jokic, but Jokic was defending Embiid the entire game. He got fried the whole game. I do respect him trying to guard him, though. But, man, Embiid said, look, if I don't win MVP this year, it's got to be a conspiracy, bro, because he's been hooping his ass off. Like, a couple weeks ago, I was thinking, like, it's Jokic and Tatum, and I think everybody else. Nah, now it's like a real conversation. Like, it's Jokic, it's Embiid, and Embiid might be maybe in first now after that performance. Who knows what people were thinking? But, man, that was a hell of a game by Embiid.
Embiid put himself right in there, I think, into the mix because his stats personally have been there all year. I mean,
career high
almost
scoring.
34 points per game, damn near. Like,
I think the only thing with him early on, like, he wasn't rebounding the basketball as well. But lately, he's picked it up. He's been rebounding a lot better. Defensively, I feel like we talked about this before. Like, he's kind of become underrated on the defensive side of the floor for what he provides as a rim protector. And they're winning games, which is the most important thing. So,
yeah, man, 10 rebounds. I think he's averaging a career high in stocks, highest blocks since like years ago, averaging over a steal a game. So, like, doing good on the hustle stats, rebounding is back up, scoring is career high. Like, he's been having a real good season statistically. It was just Philly was kind of underperforming, and now like Philly is right up there with the top dogs in the East, man. Like, he's got that top 3 seed traditional for like an MVP level player. He's pretty much has everything you need, and I think has a real good case, man. Him, Tatum, and Jokic are, I think, all in the conversation heavy and still have a real chance to take it.
if you had to vote right now, who you guys giving it to?
Recency bias goes with Embiid, man. He just smoked Jokic one-on-one. Celtics, I feel like we're so dominant, so far ahead of everybody, and now it's a bit of a race. So just recency bias, the way Philly shot up, and it's like, what have you done for me lately? Plus mixed with great stats across the board, offensive and defensive production. I think I'd have to give it to Embiid on January 30th, but talk to me on February 13th, and it might be a different answer.
Yeah, it's tough. It's like you say, off recency bias, I'm definitely considering Joel, but if Joel plays the way he has over the last month or so for the rest of the season, I'm probably going to give it to Joel. But as of today, I probably got to give it to Tatum. But it is definitely a tight race. And like you say, we talk about this in 2 weeks, in 2 months' time. There's definitely going to be some different answers to be had.
I thought I was biased. I was going to say Tatum. I thought I was being biased.
No, definitely not. Definitely
The
not.
thing about Embiid, though, he did the same stuff last year. He revved it up mid-season. There's a tweet on my page saying right now Embiid's the best player in the world. There's a tweet somewhere. I might find it. But then he fizzled out. It was after the James Harden trade, but he did fizzle out. Now, is that going to happen again? Who knows? Hopefully it doesn't, because when Embiid's playing like this, one of the best players to watch in the league, aside from him shooting 12 free throws a game. But that's fine. That's fine. The only thing with Embiid is, like, I understand, like, he exaggerates contact way too much. That's the only thing that I just dislike watching him. Other than that, I love watching this game. He can score at the best of them, but he be exaggerating contact, and he's too big to be falling to the floor like that all the time, man. He's too big.
He can't help that he's 7 foot, and I think I really feel for him from the perspective of, like, I am 6'2", and often I want to have fun and do fun things when I play basketball. And then all these dudes that I'm playing with that are like 5'6", 5'5", 5'7" are like, nah, bro, you're 6'2". You should be banging in the post. That's the only place you should be. You should never have your face to the basket. You should only be back to the back. I'm like, they're like, get on the block. Like, bro, sometimes I just want to do other stuff. And Embiid, he has a play style that's not traditional for a man at that size, but it's what he likes doing, and he's good at it. And so I really mess with that as somebody who on a lot lower of a level can relate to the experience. Like, I don't want to be boxed into what a traditional big man does. And you see dog, when Embiid gets on the block and he wants to put the post moves on you, he's nice like that. Like, he has it. It's literally it's entirely a choice. And he wants to do it, and he succeeds at doing it. So I cannot fault him at all, because I love somebody doing something that not everybody at their position or everybody that's kind of compared to them is going to do.
I just hate seeing him always flop and fall to the floor, because somebody that has injury history like him, he just doesn't need to be falling to the floor like that. Like,
Tyrik,
that's the only thing.
You gotta take your own advice on that, bro. I see you when we go to the gym, bro. You keep hitting the deck. Get up like, my knees are. You gotta stay on the ground, bro.
People can't guard me, man. Like, I just be getting hacked. Hack, man, gotta hit the floor.
Too funny. Yeah, I definitely get what you mean though, Gabe, because like it's nice for me too, and you don't get a ton of point guards doing it, but even guys like DeMar or Dwayne Wade when he was playing, get to see some of these smaller guys that work in the post. And I'm not going up in the post against bigs, because obviously I'm 5'8" and that don't work. But man, when we did post drills in practice, I was working everybody. It was such a good time. And man, it's just fun to do some of that stuff sometimes, that you get boxed into that role, like you say, at your position or at your size. And there's value to learning those skills and having those different assets in your game. There's value to Jokic being such a good ball handler and playmaker. There's value to Embiid having the ability to not just post up. And there's value to guys like Dwayne Wade and Kobe being able to post up and have some post moves. Like, there's value to that. And obviously you're not telling a guy like Bruce Brown to go learn a great post game, because there's levels to that. But once you get to a certain level and you're one of those top end guys, where you're a D Wade, where you're a Kobe, and you already have such a well-rounded offensive game, or you're an Embiid and you're already so dominant in the paint, yeah, why not start working on the other assets of your offensive game and just become that much more versatile and that much more difficult to defend?
He's just a game breaker, man. I love watching it so much, and I don't know. I think last year he really was the leading MVP for me, playing so well until the Harden trade happened, and it was like, oh, now you got this star player, because at the beginning of the season it was just like Embiid and nobody else, because Ben Simmons was sitting out. There wasn't really anybody in that position. It was clearly him far and away as the best guy on the roster. And then you kind of turn around from that. You got James Harden on the roster, and I don't think you really saw a big jump in the quality of the team and how much they were winning games. And then at the same time, he was sharing touches, kind of integrating a new major player into the system. And so that kind of took away a lot of his case. I think the fact that he's able to get into these talks with pretty much all the major pieces set, maybe they make a move or two at the deadline, but I don't think nothing close to as major as James Harden is coming in the door. So given that, it's just, I think, way better of a chance that he can really keep it going.
I don't even know what moves could they make, or do they need to make. Maybe get a backup big that's better than Montrez. Maybe that's the only one. But is that out there? Probably not. Unless you get Mason Plumlee. Mason Plumlee, man, first round pick.
Yeah.
Fire it up.
Don't mind it for someone. Don't mind it for someone.
I cannot find this tweet, but I do have tweets saying Peyton Pritchard might be the best player of all time.
I remember those.
Yes.
Yeah. Like Plumlee could get moved. Someone, I would imagine Sacramento try to move Rashawn Holmes to get better, but if they can't, maybe someone gets Rashawn Holmes for a second round pick as a backup big. That could be a move too. But there's not a ton of backup bigs, I think, that are going to get moved. I think there's a lot of teams that could use a backup big, which is typically not the case. Usually backup bigs is the easiest thing in the league to get, but it's not really the case this year. Not at least good ones, that's for sure.
God, this is me in 2014 at 2:34 a.m. Celtics, I think, had the 6th pick in this draft. And I kept seeing rumors that Embiid might fall, and I said, Embiid is a risk, man. God, I wish we had Joel
Embiid. No doubt. Those concerns were valid at the time, though. I mean, there's a reason he fell to pick 3, and it wasn't because he couldn't play ball. That's for sure.
I mean, hey, Embiid, he calls himself the process for a reason, man. I think people forgot real quickly that Joel, like, people always ragged on Ben Simmons for like his year one being year two, and a couple other guys that have done stuff like that. But Joel Embiid's year one was like year three.
It was like halfway into year three.
It was 14, 15, 15, 16 went by. He didn't play at all. He played like 30 games, and 16, 17 looked dominant. He didn't really play a full season of basketball until 2017, 18. And for a guy drafted in 2014, like, he started late and took a while to come around. He's just been so good almost the whole time that he's actually been playing full time. And somehow every season he was still going through random stuff. Like, I remember one season, I don't know if it was 2020 or what, but he ended up missing like a month or so with like an orbital fracture or something. It's like, the guy was known to have like kind of leg problems, as a lot of big men do. And then out of nowhere, it's just like your orbital fracture. Just the most unlucky thing. But the more you see a consistent Embiid on the floor, the more you gotta love to see it, man. Because he is a special talent. I'm a big Embiid fan. My only fear is that it's always the two guys in the MVP race, and it was Tatum and like Jokic for most of the season. There's been a couple like Luka rumblings and things, but Mavs have been pretty inconsistent. But his stats are all the way there. I don't know. I hope that Embiid's not like the guy that has that little January push, because there always is one, and then kind of falls back out and just ends up being the two. I think we're at a point right now where if the season ends, I genuinely have no idea, and I still do think that Luka has an outside shot. Just because the West is so close, the Mavs are like a game behind being a 4 seed, game and a half out of the 3 seed. Say they have a really killer end of the season after All-Star break, and Luka's, he's already putting up 50 like twice a week. He's not out of it. Do I think he wins it? No, I think it's more of a dark horse thing. But I do think as of right now, this MVP race is a solid 4 deep, and I really don't know who is going to.
Yeah, there's definitely still going to be discussions where up till the end of the year. And like you say, I think Luka's still got an argument for dark horse. I think the biggest thing for Embiid, obviously he needs to continue playing well, like you said, but he just can't miss time. And he's been pretty available this year. But even still, he's already played 12 less games than Tatum, which schedule variances affects that a little bit. But point being, if Embiid misses another 7-8 game stretch, it's tough when you start looking at Tatum had a great year, Joel had a great year, Jokic had a great year, but one guy missed 15 or 20 games. And that's not bad for Embiid, and that's not terrible in terms of availability, but it's going to be tough as far as MVP conversations go if the other two end up being fairly available, which they have been more available than him so far.
Yeah, once it gets like the races are as tight as they are, like this one, them small things they're gonna pick at. Like, you missed a lot of games, buddy. You missed a lot of games. And that might hold him back, but maybe he's gonna be so dominant in the time that he does play that they will have no choice but to finally give him his MVP.
Yeah, man. In the modern era, I feel like what I'm gonna call the modern era, in normal seasons, the least games played by an MVP is Allen Iverson with 71. Fitting that it's Philly, but I do think Embiid would have to at least hit like 67 games played or so to really like get into that threshold. Because there's been times, I mean, a lot of it's like back in like the 50s and such, but there's like the least ever is Karl Malone in 99 because it was a lockout season. LeBron in 2012, lockout season. Giannis with the COVID year. And then, I don't know, 1978, maybe a lockout season. That was Bill Walton's MVP, 58 games. But, I mean, that's the 70s, so I'm not exactly sure what was going on there. But from what I'm looking at, most modern seasons that are of normal length, the least amount of games played is 71. Jokic had 72 in 2021, and that was every game that year. So it's like if Embiid can't play like 67, I don't know.
And at this point in time, the most he can play is 70. He's already missed 12. So he has to be available if he's going to have a chance at MVP. And, man, I hope for his sake he just gets something eventually, because I'm starting to get afraid that he's going to be one of these guys who gets looked back at, and because of the accolades, he's not going to be represented as such. He's got the numbers at least, but if we start looking back at all NBA first teams and lack of MVPs, despite how good he's been, it's going to be tough because he's way more dominant than those all NBA team placings are going to look, because he's just getting screwed by the fact that only one center can be up there. And unfortunately, Jokic is just that guy, and Embiid has just missed a few too many games. But he definitely deserves a bit more of a higher tier of accolade than he's been able to get throughout his career. And whether that's this year or not remains to be seen. But I hope he just gets that eventually, because he's got to be one of the most unlucky award getters in NBA history.
You know who it kind of reminds me of? And this might be a little bit of a weird comparison, but it's almost like David Robinson-esque. That's the first name that came to my head of, like, he was an all-time great center, likely like a top 10 center of all time, but I feel like super underrepresented with accolades because he played in the same era as guys like Hakeem, as guys like Shaq and other top centers. 90 center position was just so dominant that somebody playing at the all-time great level might get super underrepresented. Now, to probably be at a David Robinson level, Embiid probably have to get at least one championship. So, still waiting on that. But
I think D-Rob got an MVP too.
he did get an MVP. I think that was a bit later on in his career.
It was 95 because I remember Hakeem cooked them in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, it was 95 when it got drafted 87. So about like year 8 or so, kind of close to where Embiid is now, somewhere in that range. I mean, Embiid's technically been in the NBA for like 9-ish years now, but he's only been playing for about 6 or 7.
He did miss his first 2 full seasons. That's crazy. A lot of people said he wasn't supposed to make it this far, man.
Facts. No, it's good, man. As much as we can complain about his lack of availability, or his lack of availability has been a problem for him getting certain accolades, given the consensus around him when he was drafted, in the grand scheme of things, we can't complain that he's been able to play as much and have as much success as he has throughout his NBA career. That's for sure.
We're lucky to get any basketball from him, but he's been playing all NBA level basically since like year 2 or 3. Like, he's been that good. So.
Yeah.
Best player to not reach a conference finals? I think so.
Is he better than T-Mac? T-Mac Hall of Famer, man.
Embiid?
Well, I guess T-Mac technically made a conference final, technically, with the Spurs, I guess. Dang, who else would be on that list, though?
Embiid and T-Mac is such a weird comparison.
Chris Paul was the poster child for that, but he made the conference finals, NBA finals, too.
Yeah, I don't know who else is on that list of note.
Must be a short list, man, because you can't think of nobody.
Yeah, I mean, if you're that good of a player, you're usually making it to the conference finals at least once.
T-Mac's the only guy that didn't make it when he was the man.
Yeah, I mean, other than the fact that obviously it happened last year, if it didn't happen last year, Luka could have been one of the guys that would have been heading that list, because I don't know when they're going back, but
yeah, that's true.
It's
last year their window?
I don't know if they have a window. If
that was not open,
and actually build a team around them.
that window is not open, man. If you're talking about a championship contender window, they
snuck in the back door last year. It's like, we're here.
If the Warriors were not there, and they somehow made the finals against, like, say they beat Memphis and went to the NBA Finals just by the grace of God, Celtics were smoking them.
You think so? At the time, this is me at the time. The Warriors did not impress me that much up until the finals, right? Or up until the conference finals. I wasn't really.
I was about to say they didn't impress you in the conference finals when they beat the Mavs in 5 games.
Had to correct myself. They didn't impress me as much up until the conference finals. Going into that conference finals, I personally wanted to see the Warriors more than I wanted to see Dallas, because I don't know, Luka scares me that much because he's just that good. Maybe that's an issue. Maybe that's what the real issue with that team is. It's just like we kind of just give Luka the benefit of the doubt, and they need more than that. And I think they're getting away with not trying to get him real help. Like how we mentioned, like the Hawks have tried their best to give Trae Young real help. Dallas has not done that. They let their help leave. Jalen Brunson's maybe an all-star. He's gone. And they were like, we'll get you Christian Wood.
It's the key to failure, man. I feel like it happens whenever a lot of teams get like a generational talent. It's
LeBron's first in Cleveland.
That's what I was gonna say. LeBron's first in Cleveland. You had a player so good that you went from like drafting them in the lottery to all of a sudden you're like either a fringe playoff to a playoff team. Well, now you don't have other high picks to put around him. Like, while they might have done a lot of bad drafting, Phoenix got Devin Booker, and they were terrible for years. So they were able to get Ayton. They were able to draft a lot of guys who could have been something. Now, did a lot of them not pan out? Yes, but then they got a bunch of assets up that they ended up flipping for a Chris Paul. Now, on the other hand, it's just like Luka, he got there, and now all of a sudden you're good, and now your pick is not good enough to get you a good co-star for him.
To a different extent, even like MVP Derrick Rose, like he was amazing. They had a good team, but they didn't have another guy next to Derrick Rose that is like, okay, we need some help next to Derrick Rose because he's going up against prime LeBron, still prime Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh is still really good. And we got Derrick Rose, but it's like, we got Carlos Boozer, who wasn't as nearly as good as he was in Utah. We got Noah. Noah's more that glue guy type dude. Luol Deng's good, but if he's your second option, it's like, if he's your third, then maybe, but he's your second, kind of iffy. So that's a good point, Gabe. We kind of have seen this with guys that are generational type talents just happen before. And it's either teams get it right or they try to get it right when it's too late. Or they just bring in a bunch of old heads. Like, like the Cavs' idea of help back then was like, let's go get Antoine Jameson. He's like 32, but he was an all-star before, right? Let's go get Shaq.
It's like now you get to look at, like, I look at Cleveland and it's like they got Garland, but I mean Garland was viewed as a bust at first, but then had a little bit of like injury trouble, and then through that they were able to get like Mobley and such, and now all of a sudden Garland flourishes. They absolutely fleeced Jared Allen off of it. Now they've built something because they had extra assets, they had extra high picks that were able to come in, and so many it's just sometimes a player really is too good, and that's a part of why Philly's even able to be good right now. That team's not getting Ben Simmons if Joel Embiid has 3 years under his belt. Because let me tell you, if Joel Embiid is playing basketball and like making them a better team, I know they were doing the process thing, so maybe they still do take best talent available. But do they take like Jahlil Okafor if Joel Embiid is like rookie of the year? I don't know if they do that.
Who else was in that draft? Porzingis.
I don't know, man. That
I wouldn't have had that.
Was bad regardless.
Yeah, they were in that mode where they're just like, we're just taking the best player available. No matter what position he plays, we're taking them. Which, I mean, I guess at the time, because they didn't know what they had in Embiid. Noel was like, it's cool.
I'll be honest, though. I just don't understand why NBA teams liked Okafor that much. Like, he looked like one of those guys that was just a really good college player. And it just wasn't going to transition. I didn't watch a lot of college ball that year, but when I watched Okafor, it was like, this guy just can't move for the NBA. Like
when he got to the league, yeah, but what I saw was like, he seemed like an Al Jefferson type, and that was still relevant at the time. So it made sense at the time. Now, nobody really predicted the 3-point revolution, and if you can't move on defense anymore, you're pretty much toast. Nobody really predicted that, but in college, he was that guy, and he definitely was one of the. He was supposed to be the first pick until Cat popped off. Like he was supposed to be the first pick. So
that's
true. That was one of the poster children, man, of drafted in the wrong era. A couple guys like that, and that when you guys were talking about Al Jefferson earlier in the episode, the first thing that came to my mind was like, man, Jahlil Okafor could have been nice in the post, but the post was dead.
Yeah, and he was nice in the post. It's just that he just wasn't good enough in every other part of the game that he just wasn't going to make it in the modern NBA. Because, I mean, even when he was playing bad basketball, per se, I mean, this rookie put up over 17 points a night. Now, given he was getting the ball a lot because he was in Philly, but like, he was good in the he was a good post scorer. That was true. It's just that everything else that he needed to be a good modern day NBA center, he just didn't have and was never going to have, unfortunately.
Him, Jabari Parker kind of fell victim to just being good offensively, but defensively, you giving them 2s and 3s right back, buddy. Giving them right back.
Yeah, that was too bad, and his injury didn't help with that either. But that was a tough one.
That was a fun era of random players, man. Somehow, I feel like I just walk into the rec center, and I just like see people that have certain comparisons to those type players. Like every time I walk in to the gym, there's an Andre Drummond, bro. There's some guy that I swear he gets every rebound, but what does he do every time he gets that rebound? That ball is going right back up instantaneously. Does not matter if there are 4 guys in front of him. It's going up. Zero finesse. Just gets the rebound, puts that back up, and we are off to the races.
It's funny how Drummond was like a 20-20 machine, but he was shooting like 48% of the rim, and most of his boards were just his own misses.
He was the most unimpactful double-double you will ever see in your life.
Like 2020, and it does not matter. Like it's insane. It's insane. You know, weird segue, but Drummond was a terrible free throw shooter, right?
Yeah.
I don't have any sympathy for guys that are bad free throw shooters anymore. Jeremy Sohan has debunked that myth, man. Him, Mason Plumlee, you can make changes even if it's midseason and become competent.
100%. 100%. I mean, there's some guys that might not ever be great free throw shooters, but it's one of those things where if you tinker with your form enough, you sit in enough and take enough free throw shots, you can become a better free throw shooter. Now, not everyone's going to be shooting 90% from there, but 70%, I feel like that's pretty attainable for most guys that are in the NBA who actually put the time in and work on it.
Yeah, I've never really understood that. I feel like I watch high school ball, and most guys out on the court are making their free throws at least like you said, 70%. That is so attainable, and especially if that's your job, you get paid to do that. Like surely, and I think in today's era, it's almost more inexcusable because 10 years ago it was still like, okay, a lot of big men on the court, like floor spacing isn't as great. Man, nowadays, like you're just unplayable late game because what your team's not running any offense. They're fouling you, and you're going to the line. You're missing, and then the team is taking the ball back. And if you're going down and you maybe get 1 point if you shoot 50%, man, you get 1 point. Half the time that team's going to come down and they're going to shoot a 3. So it's not even just like a 1 point swing. Like it's a big difference.
Basically empty possessions at that point.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely are.
Yeah, I applaud that, man. Like seeing a rookie like Sohan, like knowing he recognized, like, okay, I'm not a good free throw shooter, but he's like, I'm not gonna wait to the offseason. I'm gonna make some changes now, and I think he's up to like 65% since he made the switch or something like that. Like 65% is not amazing, but it's better than what he was shooting, and at least he's capable of knocking some down. So you got to applaud that, man. Like not being afraid to look kind of goofy because shooting a one-handed free throw does look goofy, but it's working for him. So, shout out to him, man.
It's going in. And he's been a bit more confident on offense as well as of late. Of course, he had his big performance the other night, and he's looking like another solid Spurs pick, man. Those guys know how to draft. I'll give them that.
They know how to do it, man. They had 3 first-round picks. I seen Malachi Branham getting some playing time I think it was last week he was starting. I haven't heard much from Blake Wesley, so we'll see what they have in him. But yeah, that team, they're playing with house money at this point, man. They got contracts to move if they want to. They got young talent, Trey Jones looking nice, and they're going to have a top pick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just nice. It's like Blake Leslie's been getting a little bit of time as of late, but he would just miss so much time at the beginning of the year with injuries. So give him a bit of chance, and he might end up being a pretty solid player for them as well. He's been efficient in limited time he's played this year too. So No, I trust the Spurs, man. I will trust them to continue drafting well until they prove me otherwise. And I feel like they haven't really missed on a pick in a while. So, and even on some of their later picks, like you mentioned, Trey Jones. I mean, like Trey Jones was just a solid, do a bit of everything guy in college. Not really shooting the three, but good engine to your offense. Can play, make a bit, get to the rim. Bring him in. Get a few years into his deal, and he looks like a legit starting point guard now on some teams across the league, and he's improved his 3-point shooting. Like that's just the Spurs type of pick, man. They do that so well.
So selfish, man. I miss Malachi Branham at Ohio State, man. What can I say? He was really running the game out here, but
he was too good to stay.
He was too good to stay. I hope they develop him well, man. His shooting splits do not look great. They do not look great. I'm not gonna lie, but I think he's got
young dude who wasn't really supposed to be a one and done until it was time for him to be one. So he'll be all right. A lot of Spurs rookies don't really do that great, anyways, man. Like I can't tell you one thing about Devin Vassell's rookie year. Keldon Johnson wasn't getting playing time. DeJounte Murray wasn't getting playing time. Like, God, I ain't even worried about it, man.
Yeah. Their year one approach with guys is usually let them get their feet a little bit wet, and then year two they actually start contributing, and year three is their breakout year. That's typically the way it goes, and that's how it was for Keldon Johnson. That's how it's been for Vassell. Year three, he's been great. Wouldn't expect it to be much different for other guys. Same thing for Trey Jones. Barely played rookie year. Now he's starting point guard year three, and he's had a good year. So they got a method to the madness over there, and it's been working. So I'm going to let them keep running it and give them some credit for it. That's for sure.
Good enough to get Victor, man.
It is legit a cycle, bro.
Well, I'm going to say, if they get Victor, they didn't know wait until year three. That I will say.
They're unleashing him day one.
No doubt.
Day one.
Are they? I don't know, man. Spurs might pull it where he phantom misses his first season, man. They get Victor. They get Victor, and they get whoever's next.
Bronny?
Give him a G League stint.
Victor and Bronny, and then you get LeBron. Oh, my gosh. LeBron playing for Coach Pop, bro.
There's no way that works.
Listen, bro.
No way that works.
It does, though, because listen, man. That'll be the highest IQ basketball team you've ever seen in your life. LeBron, he can for real sit out half the season. Coach, just be cool. Be a player coach, man. Be a player coach. And then once it comes around playoffs time, all right, now it's time for the king to suit up. Let's put that 6 on the chest, the 23 on the back. We rocking both. And then they go into the playoffs, one more run. And then after that, LeBron retires. Pop retires,
and then Victor just runs the show.
Might as well bring Tim Duncan back too, man. Let Tim Duncan get some playing time, get an extra ring.
For real. Now
Tim Duncan was just on the coaching staff, man. Bring him. Victor needs a nice big man, a mentor, man.
Now you ain't wrong. That's about to be the highest IQ duo, but that's also about to be the highest ego duo. And I don't know how that works because there ain't no way that Pop is allowing a player coach on his team because he is the coach, and there ain't no way LeBron is calling the shots on a Pop team. There's just no way. That's
the humble king, man. I think they have so much mutual respect.
Humble. You see how that man was reacting the other night?
Oh my god! Classic Celtics fan, always hating.
Nah, you know what's funny? I didn't tweet this, but I was thinking about it. This man Steph Curry literally threw his mouthpiece the other night because of something his teammate did. Right? People did not make that much of a big deal about it. But LeBron is legitimately frustrated because he clearly got fouled and the rest did not call it. And people are clowning him about it. It's just like it's funny being LeBron. Like you really gotta take that criticism, bro. Because Steph literally threw his mouthpiece. Okay. Bro. Nobody said anything about it. They're just like, what?
Steph with the mouthpiece. One, it's happened before, and when it happened, like in the finals and all that, like. People were like, "Dang, bro, Steph throwing his mouthpiece. Like, what does he do?" Like, it was. I feel like it was a bigger deal back then. You've seen.
Maybe that's because that was the finals.
And, bro, listen, throwing your mouthpiece versus whatever the hell LeBron did.
Okay,
it's not real criticism, bro. That was hilarious.
Okay, here's a better comparison, because this is actually where I was originally thinking about it. There was a video surfacing of LeBron sitting on the bench for like a minute, just by himself, looked very dejected. I think it was after he had scored like 40 against the Clippers, and they were still losing by like 20 points. And he was just sitting there by himself, head down, just sitting there by himself for like a whole minute. And people were really mad at LeBron for that, because he was just sitting on the bench like by himself. Like, okay, man. But then Steph Curry throws his mouthpiece. It's like nobody makes a big deal of it. It's just, I don't know. It's funny.
That's just the way in the life of the stars of the stars. Because Curry is a star, but LeBron's just on another level, and every sport's got it. It's just the way it is.
Curry's a star that everybody loves.
Like, nobody's going to talk about Steph's beef
true.
with teammates when he's teammates with Draymond Green, who, like, yeah, Steph threw his mouthpiece because of what Jordan Poole did. Dog, Draymond was throwing hands because of what Jordan Poole did. Like,
I guarantee if LeBron would have threw his mouthpiece because Westbrook took a bad shot in a crunch time game,
everybody would have agreed.
He made much of a bigger deal.
It would have been a big deal because they would have been like, he was right. Westbrook was probably taking a terrible shot. Dog, he was on his hands and knees.
Throwing your mouthpiece.
Throwing your mouthpiece at your knees, dog.
Throwing your mouthpiece over a teammate is kind of crazy, bro. Like, literally chucking it. That's insane. Like, LeBron didn't even do that when J.R. Smith didn't know the time and score. Like, come on, man.
You should have, though.
LeBron was sitting there going,
God, this man Steph. I think they were winning too. This man Steph really chucked his mouthpiece. Like,
I don't know if they were winning because Poole had to hit the game winner like right after that.
I think they were up like 2 at the time, because I think Ja came down and tied the game up after Steph got ejected.
Hey man, they're always trying to find a way to take Steph Curry down, man. You know, he has a right to be frustrated. You know, what Jordan Poole saw what Tyrik.
Maybe a right to be frustrated,
mid, bro. Jordan Poole saw what Tyrik refers to as mid at courtside. Thought he was something special, and Steph Curry just couldn't. He's not about the BS, bro. Steph Curry's about winning basketball games and making threes, and being pretty. Especially it's against the Grizzlies, bro. Like, you know, the beef.
If anybody else did that, they'd be like, "That's bad leadership."
Yeah,
that's terrible.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You were not wrong. You imagine Trae Young did that? Oh man,
God.
Maybe
the
rumor mill and the trade rumors would be getting going immediately after the game, man. Next morning on Twitter, I'd just be seeing mock trades for days.
Only person that might be able to also get away with that is like Luka. I feel like people don't really say bad things about Luka.
Yeah, Luka could probably get away with that, especially because he does have no help.
If Devin Booker did that, man. Devin Booker barely got any help right now, and they would still tear him apart. You want to talk about having it bad, man.
That's just anything about the Suns, though. Like, they try and rip them to pieces, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They've always hated Devin, bro. People have hated Devin Booker since he complained about the double teaming thing in the offseason.
Yeah.
I feel like it got just worse last season. The winners work videos and stuff. Like,
yeah, it definitely didn't help. It's tough, man. He was losing, and he was getting called an empty statter. And then they started winning, and now no one likes anyone on the Suns. He just can't get a break.
Nah, but he 100% deserves to talk as much trash as possible, man. If everybody was like ragging on me for so long, and then now I'm carrying the team to a 1 seed. Oh yeah, I'm showing out, man. I'm gonna let you know too.
Yeah, that's how it should be. It's funny though, like with teams, like I see this kind of saw this in the NFL, like with the Bengals. Like it seemed like they were kind of beloved, and then it came to like they're going against Mahomes. They're kind of talking trash because it's like, you know, we kind of weren't supposed to be here, and then people just don't like them for it. I feel like the Suns kind of got treated like that. The Grizzlies get treated like that now. It's like they kind of love you at first, and then once you get that success and you kind of start feeling yourself a little bit, then everybody starts to hate you. And it's just kind of it's weird.
It's like they love
I think the Suns got it worse than the Bengals, man. I feel like with the Bengals, I feel like it's just everybody hates Eli Apple, and they thought that the mayor saying like Burrowhead was kind of corny. I don't really hear a lot of
the
like
Suns was
Burrow
built
or
up. The
Chase
Suns
or
was built up
slander.
for sure. The Suns was built up. Like the Bengals kind of happened like that because a lot of chatter was going on, but the Suns kind of was like built up over time last season for sure.
Yeah, it definitely feels like people love the confident underdog until the underdog is actually no longer the underdog, or at least they exceed expectations. And then for some reason, that's no longer cool.
That is 100% facts, bro. I just don't get it. I guess it makes sense because then people are looking for the new underdog to root for. But
Yeah, but like at least support them throughout the rest of their run.
man,
No,
Hey,
like at least let them have the season. Then if they're no longer the underdog next year, then okay, sure. But like let them have their run at least.
I've fallen into it, man. I thought Kansas City was the coolest thing when they were like about to take down Tom Brady, and then the Patriots like barely slid by the Chiefs in that AFC title game. And now ever since then, bro, I'm just like,
you're just a salty fan, man. It's okay.
And now like ever since they became now they're rivals with the Bengals, man. And it's like when they were like the up and coming team, it was cool, but now they're like the dynasty that's holding my team back. I don't know, man. That's gonna become a bitter rival over the next like at least like 5-6 years.
So you're just a Chiefs hater from now on?
I've been a Chiefs hater. I was literally rooting for the Buccaneers so hard in that Super Bowl. Don't ask me why. I don't have a great reason. But I like when the whole time the Buccaneers were just running through the Chiefs, I was like applauding.
That's terrible. You should be ashamed, bro.
Hey, man.
You should be ashamed, man.
I'm sorry. I wanted to see Tom Brady get it done apart from the Patriots. I wanted to see if he could do it, man. I thought that was like a cool little bizarro world thing.
I guess that's fair. I guess. Man.
I don't even think there's a team in the NBA I'm a hater of. I was a Bucks hater for a long time. I was a Bucks hater for so long.
We're all Wizards haters.
Yeah, I was just about to say I'm a Wizards front office hater, but that's
They're not good.
That's
though.
probably about it. Yeah, I don't really.
I'm talking about like
good teams.
Like the teams that it's like, oh yeah, we built them up just to hate them later. Like,
yeah, no, I don't have anyone like that in the league.
No,
like I was like a Bucks hater like until they got the ring almost like, because it was the whole thing of like there was the whole thing between them and the Raptors, and it was like they were one of those teams that felt like it was kind of holding the Raptors back, but then the Raptors beat them in 2019, and then I have to talk my trash, but ever since like they won their ring and really pulled through, and like Giannis has really cemented himself as like, because I kind of fell into like the all he does is run and dunk, like it's not even that exciting, but especially Giannis has just become undeniable because even if I still did not like his game that much, he's just too good of a person for me to dislike him, and by association the team.
I'll just
I was about to say, bro. I don't know if I can say. You can't say nothing about Giannis, the man. Respectfully,
he's cool, except for the ladder incident. Asshole for that. But other than that, he's cool.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's overly poor or dramatic, I kind of give most of those guys a bit of leeway with stuff like that because it's like these guys are in the public eye all the time. If the stupidest thing you did every 12 to 16 months got put in the media all the time, yeah, there might be some stupid stuff out there, right? So I mean, when you're always on film, on camera from someone somewhere, it's like as long as you're not doing something egregious, you got to give them a little bit of leeway because these guys have got a camera on them 24/7. Anything that they do that's a bit out of line, it's getting noticed, it's getting reported on. So
definitely. Yeah, I could not live a lifestyle like that, man. All power to them, but
I could. Any
too much. too much of an introvert, man. Like having cameras on me.
Me too.
Like people got mad at Westbrook because he didn't sign that kid's. I think it was a jersey. But I'm like, one, I always see videos of Westbrook signing stuff. Maybe he was having a bad day. Like, I don't know what was going on. He might have just had a terrible day and just didn't want to stop and sign the kid's jersey. Like, it happens, bro. Like, it's okay.
For real, man.
Now that kid's probably gonna grow up as a villain now, but I mean,
it's not like Russ doesn't have a few of those. So
yeah, I don't know. I just couldn't imagine. Like, it seems like everybody wants a piece of you. It's always something you can't go out without people recognizing you or anything. Like that would probably get annoying very fast.
Yeah, definitely. If you're made for that and you're that extroverted, then
good for
all
you.
the power to you and enjoy it. But yeah, like that is not built for me. I'm definitely not built for that.
I feel like I'm like half and half where I'm introverted and where I don't want to approach people. But dude, if people approach me, I'll eat that up. I love that. Like I love that. So if I was like a public figure and people were approaching me all the time, dude, I would actually like eat that up. Being social where I don't have to initiate it, that gets rid of any like the anxiety on my part. I'm cool. Like give me that any day of the week.
That's fair. I wish I was like that. I'll just still be like I'll be a real Derrick Rose NBA player. Like, yeah, I'm just here to hoop, man.
For real. Oh.
Awesome. Shout out to Third Wire for getting Derrick Rose, man. That was I love seeing that. I love seeing true.
Big facts.
If I had an NBA player's personality, dude, I feel like I'd probably end up as a Paul George where I talk some trash and then it just comes back to bite me for the next 5 years. I just have a feeling like somehow I'd be like, I'm good, I got it. And then all of a sudden it's just the downfall, man. Just my luck.
I'll probably be his teammate Kawhi, man. Like y'all ain't gonna hear from me. I might have some commercials and stuff here and there. I might do some side missions like produce an album or something, but that's about it.
Yeah,
hey, man,
that's the most social interactions I'll have.
People keep saying that's Jokic, man. Once they say he's gonna become a top 20 player to ever play basketball, and then you're just never gonna hear from him again.
He's moving back to Serbia and he's riding horses for the rest of his life. He's a different level. I don't think I would be that extreme, but I would probably be like more like Kawhi level ish, like something like that. Like I'm not really gonna be in the news too much. I'll probably have some type of social media presence, but not nothing crazy. So somewhere around that realm.
Yeah, for sure.
Kawhi's gone quiet, man. He's been hooping recently, and I feel like nobody's really talking about it.
He's been playing.
He has been. But the Clippers have been at their best when no one's talking about them. So I got no problem. Got no problem with them stay under the radar.
The 1 seed hopes are alive, man. Oh, that's all I'm saying, man.
Maybe
no. Philly is right there, bro, and the Clippers have home court advantage, man. That's all I'm saying.
I hope Philly passes Boston. I do. I just hate I hate the look of my team being the team to beat. I just hate that so much.
Well, yeah, I mean, the 76ers probably could, but I don't even know if the 76ers could become the team to beat just because of how many times they've crashed out of the playoffs. And honestly, unless Milwaukee get some really good depth at the deadline or Chris Middleton consistently stays healthy and starts playing really good ball again, they're probably not going to jump the Celtics, at least on paper, outside of the standings. They might standings-wise, but I don't think they're going to be there unless Middleton comes back and looks like him. And
which is a question.
I'm hoping so, but we're not getting any further away from the playoffs, and it's not looking great. So
he had a good game a few nights ago, but yeah, it's like
since we started recording, the Timberwolves are already back to a 9 seed.
They'll be okay.
It's the West, man. It's the West.
They lost in overtime.
And in 2 more days, they could be a 4 seed. So Who knows?
I don't know, man.
Who knows?
Clip gang or don't bang, man. I think
Nobody says that.
Bro. There's clearly some pay, bro. If the Clippers got a million, if the Clippers got a million fans, I'm one of them. If the Clippers have 10 fans, I'm one of them. If the Clippers have one fan, that is me. And if the Clippers have no fans, by God, I am deceased.
It's a fake Raptors fan, man.
Man, this man just gave up his Raptors fandom on pod.
That's my Western Conference. That's my Western Conference.
We might have to cut that out, man. We might have to cut that out.
Nah. We got to put him on the spot here. We can't be hiding this,
man.
Hey, but I feel like I'm allowed to like teams in the Western Conference, man. I don't have those other teams in the East besides. Like
that's why he brought up them Freddie rumors, because he's like, hey, Freddie's a Raptor. That will give me even more incentive to root for him.
Listen, is it that bad? Think about it. Like, do you have to have that strong of brand loyalty? Where if this Clippers team was for real, like everybody from that Raptors team, how am I not gonna like him? It's players that gave me great memories.
You can like him, but calling yourself a fan like that, basically a diehard fan, kind of crazy.
That is a bit crazy. Like, if the
I
Kings
am slightly trolling. It's just I like that Raptors team. I liked all those Raptors players, and I like Paul George, man. I'm sorry, I like Paul George.
You are an avid Clippers supporter.
Yeah,
that's it. You're an avid
for sure. For sure.
It's like I'm an avid King supporter and an avid Chris Paul fan.
Yeah, that's me with the Kings and the Grizzlies. If they go on good runs this year, I'll be happy, but you best believe that at the same time, I'm also going to be running some lottery simulations, hoping the Raptors get Victor. That's my team.
And if the Celtics played the Kings in the finals, by the grace of God, I'm rooting for a Celtics sweep. It was a good run. It was a good run.
Hey, man. Dang, bro. If the Raptors somehow made the finals and played the Clippers, that's a tough one, man. That's a tough one.
No shot, man. No shot.
I would have to root for the Raptors sweep just because Kawhi left. And for Kawhi to leave, make the finals, and play the Raptors, it's only poetic justice that he get his ass handed to him.
That would be insane.
That would be wild. But
I don't think better.
I don't think Kawhi is a member of the Clippers the next time the Raptors are good enough for that. So
I don't know if Kawhi's a member of the league the next time.
Wow.
The Raptors are good.
Yeah, that's kind of half the point.
Yeah.
Unless Scotty makes the superstar jump next year, then it's probably going to be a minute.
Year 3, hey, all y'all need to do is call up Pop, be like, what do y'all be doing? What do y'all do with these guys in year 3, man?
No doubt.
Tell us.
Scotty had a year 3 Spurs jump. This man about to be an all-star starter next year.
He's having the Tatum type trajectory, man. Year 2 is not that much worse than year 1. I mean, statistically, he might be. Is he better or is he like slightly back? I think it's around the same.
Yeah, he's still a bit worse, but he's definitely looked better over the last month or so, for sure.
Hey, I remember Tatum, year 2, that they were expecting this big jump, wasn't there. And year 3 came back, all-star. So Scotty might be on that type of timing, man.
Definitely could be. That draft class is looking really good, man. It's looking really good.
Gosh.
And we don't even get to see Cade right now, man. That's the crazy thing.
I miss Cade, man. I had so much fun watching him his rookie season. Miss watching that guy hoop.
Yeah, it's tough because that's probably the team in the league now that has the least top-end talent, at least as a number 1 guy. And there's still some guys that are fun to watch on that team. Like enjoy watching Duran and Isaiah play together. Jaden Ivey's still fun, but like everyone else has got at least a pretty good number 1. Even Houston's got Jalen Green, but Detroit, you're tuning in and that guy isn't really there, right? I mean, there's Bojan, but he's probably gone within a week and a half. And then you're Jaden Ivey, Al Burks. It's tough, right? It's tough. So at least the Hornets got LaMelo, the Magic got Franz and Paolo. Like most teams at least have got someone, but Detroit without Cade is tough. And I'd imagine they're probably hurting financially because of it too. I'm I'll be interested to see what their attendance numbers are like at the end of the year because I'd imagine they're probably struggling this year.
I bet nobody's going to those games. Rightfully so, man. Rightfully so.
No. Let me tell you, though, if I was living in Toronto, I'd definitely be going down to a few games because I'd be going down to Detroit and getting the game in some really good seats and back, and it'd be way cheaper than a Raptors ticket. That's for sure.
Yeah, their arena's nice too. I went there for a concert, but it was a nice little arena, nice setup. It's in a decent area in town too. It's not hard to get to. Decent.
I didn't realize it was like a 2-hour drive, bro. Like,
yeah, it's no
distance.
Going,
I did like Cincinnati to Detroit like 2-3 weeks ago, man. 3 hours, man. So
get this
going
one. I went there
games,
by myself, and that drive went by fast, and I drove alone.
like for Cleveland games, because when I went to Cleveland versus Toronto a couple years back, like Raptors fans showed well.
yeah.
It's like those North games like that are close to Toronto, like they travel well to those nearby teams.
Yeah, they do. Detroit always does well. Cleveland always does well. Portland usually does pretty good too. You get people coming down from Vancouver. Same thing with the Blue Jays, man, in baseball. Like Seattle games, there's always a ton of people coming down from Vancouver. Canadian fans travel well for sure, especially on those West Coast games because I mean, it's a lot closer to go down to Seattle or Portland and a lot cheaper than it is to go across to Toronto, which is just the nature of having one team in your country, and that team is well over 1,500, 2,000 kilometers away, depending on where you're at. So
maybe Vancouver should get a team next too.
Yeah, I don't know if they can support a team. I'd love to see it. Maybe they just need to get winning sooner than they did last time, so people will show out. But I don't know. I don't know if it's there. I'd like to believe it is, but I don't know if the market's there for it.
I still think the next expansion is Seattle and Vegas, and the Pelicans move east, man. I think that's truly what it is.
Maybe
you say Memphis. I feel like we've had this discussion. I always forget.
Yeah.
Probably Memphis. But one of those is moving eastbound, and you're getting Seattle and Vegas because Vegas is like the big market to go to, and then the only reason the other sports haven't really expanded to Seattle is because either they already had a team or like NHL did just expand to Seattle. So it's like those are the markets with the Raiders, with the Kraken, with the Golden Knights. It's just that's where
the
teams
Seahawks
are right now. That's not an expansion, but
but you know they got professional sports though. You feel yeah. Maybe Virginia should get a team, man. That's a basketball hub. Move the Wizards. Virginia's a basketball state, man. Gotta thank the guys that came from there, man. Allen Iverson, JJ Redick. And there's more guys I just can't think of off the top of my head. Those are the first two names that came to mind.
Is it NBA though? Because you think like I don't know. There's a lot of places that are big in like college scene.
Throw a team in Richmond, man.
Richmond? I don't know. Richmond. Teams that have never cities that have never had a pro sports team.
Hey man, there's a team in Salt Lake City. Can't get much worse than that.
Facts. Yeah, other players that were born in Virginia is Moses Malone, Alonzo Mourning, Ralph Sampson, Del Curry, Grant Hill. Some solid players for sure.
Give me some names, man. No shade at Salt Lake City though, man. I'm sure also weekend is going to be lovely.
For sure.
But come on, if there's a team in Salt Lake City, it can't get much more obscure than that.
I feel like most sports leagues probably have that like random city. I feel like NBA has a couple. Like, I don't see any other sports league expanding to Sacramento.
Oklahoma City.
Yeah. Oklahoma is such a college state with the Sooners and Oklahoma State and everything. Like, that's such a college state. Sacramento, like, you expect, like, when you have the Cali market, it's like you're going LA, the Bay, even San Diego. Like, I'm really not thinking of
the one sport that doesn't really have any like just obscure teams is baseball. Baseball doesn't really have any.
Yeah.
Is there anybody?
They got places where their fans don't care, but it's not an obscure place.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's true.
What would be the most obscure like NFL team? I mean, because like all three of the Florida teams, like those cities all have other sports.
Tampa does, yep. Jacksonville, maybe.
Yeah, Jacksonville would be the one. Jacksonville would be the one.
Yeah.
I was gonna make you mad and say Cincinnati.
Cincinnati's got baseball too.
Yeah, I forgot.
Well,
I forgot they got baseball. Again, fans don't really care about the team, but they do have baseball. Minneapolis. Is pretty normal.
Okay, I know it's rooted in tradition. Having a team in Green Bay is wild.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's why it's so rooted in tradition that it doesn't feel weird.
Green Bay, Milwaukee, weird.
Why are like the Packers? That should be Milwaukee's football team, but Green Bay is so rooted in tradition.
Just leave the whole state alone, to be honest. Just leave the whole state alone. No shade to Wisconsin, but leave the whole state alone. Not somewhere I would want to travel. I'm on Joakim Noah stuff.
Yeah,
Green Bay.
Man.
Green Bay definitely takes the crown.
Yeah, definitely.
But baseball does not have one. I can't think of any teams. Like they don't even have a team in like New Orleans. They don't even hit some of the major markets.
Is baseball 30 or 32? It's 32, isn't it?
It's 30.
30. Probably because they have two teams in Chicago, two teams in New York. Like
smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got two teams in LA. Yeah, all their big markets are doubled up. So they haven't really.
They got a San Francisco team. They got an Oakland team. Damn, they do have two teams like in a lot of places. Damn.
Yeah, they do.
Where do the Rangers play? They play in Austin,
Arlington. So Dallas.
They play. So they're down. Okay, if they were Austin, that'd probably be the most obscure one. But if they're Dallas, then that's
the Austin Rangers would be nasty.
You know, I'm surprised that they still maintain having like a San Francisco team and an Oakland team. Because the NFL just moved away from that, and the NBA has kind of had the Warriors as just like the Bay forever.
Were the A's ever in danger of moving? I feel like they were. I just don't really remember though.
No, to be honest.
Or maybe it was just like they wanted to get their own field or something because they were playing on the Raiders field.
More like the Raiders were playing on their field. Half of the Raiders field was like freaking dirt.
Yeah.
Now, apparently there is talks right now of Oakland potentially moving to Vegas.
Just like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
it's not a given. They might stick yet, but there's definitely talks. I think their current lease at the stadium they're at right now, it runs through 2024. So,
Las Vegas A's.
Potential.
Man, maybe it's just because I'm around here, but I feel like a lot of these like markets in this area just seem kind of small. Like I don't know. Like I look at like even like Cincy, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore, like all have teams, especially like the NFL. Like that's almost a whole division, and it feels like those are all like theoretically kind of the smallest markets.
Yeah,
but maybe it's because I just view stuff like I don't know how big like Minneapolis or like Denver is compared to a lot of those places, or even like Milwaukee, but. Hockey's weirdest market might be Columbus, man. Not gonna lie. Ain't nothing else here. It's a college town.
Yeah. I'm looking now. Yeah, that might be the most obscure one.
Yeah.
Other than the fact there's a million teams in California, but
San Jose.
San Jose, Anaheim, the Kings.
They do got a lot of teams up there, man. I guess every sport has a ton.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Niners, Rams, Chargers.
A team being in Winnipeg seems weird too, just because there's literally nothing for like 1,000 kilometers in either direction. It's like you're probably about 1,000 kilometers, if not more, from there to Calgary, and even more from there to Toronto. It's just down an absolute island from everything.
Cali markets just seem so saturated. Like, I know it's a big place, but it's just like, I don't know. I feel like you could sell just still so much merch and have it more centralized in one place. Maybe with so many.
Not hit to the West Coast, bro. You're just not a West Coast guy.
I guess it means a Cali team is always good, man. Like as soon as sort of the Kobe Lakers were dying off, like here's the Steph Curry Warriors, and Cali just stays relevant.
Clippers, Lob City. No,
come on, bro. Conference finals.
We gotta appreciate the mediocre teams more, man. They didn't achieve anything, but they were fun.
I feel like I talk about the 2017 Wizards way too often to have that criticism leveled at me.
You do. Conference finals. Kelly Olynyk.
I see. Hey, man, before I figured out what team I was a fan of, I low-key liked the Clippers for a couple months before I found out about DeMar and Kyle. I fell in love with Toronto.
Clippers were an easy team to like until you realize they're not getting anything done in the playoffs.
That's just very true.
You know, maybe that's why I'm like a closeted Clippers fan, is because before I even liked the Raptors, I low-key had like a slight Clipper affinity. So it's low-key been like those two teams I've had my love since the very beginning.
Yeah, you just made that up on the fly. It's okay.
Right, man. When the Clippers came back down 30 against the Warriors in the playoffs, man, who was like, right there cheering with Pat Bev, man?
That's like me taking credit. That's like me taking credit for like saying I was a big Monte Ellis fan, so I can like enjoy the Warriors' success even more. Like, no.
What success am I enjoying, bro? All the Clippers do is underperform.
Just said, man, when they came back from down 30, you was there.
And still lost. After that
Kevin
game,
Durant.
He said, y'all know who I am? I'm Kevin fucking Durant.
It's Kevin Durant.
Went out, he dropped 40 on him. Pat Bet, bro. First of all, let me stop this narrative, bro. People are saying that Eli Apple is the Patrick Beverly of football. Dog. Patrick Beverly is way better than Eli Apple. Let me throw that out.
I forgot Pat Bev made an all-defensive team. I forgot all about that.
Pat Bev was like a contributing player on good Rockets teams, a contributing player on pretty dang solid Clippers teams, won the play-in title with the Timberwolves.
Play-in title. That is a wild assortment of three words right there.
That is an insane accolade, bro.
What? It is
Play-in title. There's
it's
no
still
way.
better than anything that Eli Apple has accomplished, man. I'm sorry. He's literally
109th player ranked at his position.
Eli Apple. Listen, when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, Awuzie is better. Hilton was better, bro. He was at best the third best corner on the team. I don't know, man.
He never was a superstar. He's the first player I've seen get made a low lights reel of his performance in one game, right after the game ended. Hey, that's what he gets, man. Shouldn't have talked about New Orleans like that, bro. We was with Eli Apple when he was screwing us. We still backed him up.
The cornerback position is just screwed, bro. For the Bengals, like I had to deal with Antonio Brown cooking Dre Kirkpatrick for years. Every time it's literally, here's Big Ben down the sideline, and Antonio Brown wide open, strolling into the end zone, Kirkpatrick trailing for years, bro. And then every offseason, Adam Pac-Man Jones arrested for what? I feel like one offseason he like spit on a nurse or something. Like it just be some stupid shit. Like
got to a fight at the airport.
Like, bro, how? And I know he wasn't a corner, but bro, I miss Perfect, man. I'm not gonna lie, man.
He would have done the same thing that dude did yesterday, pushing Mahomes out of bounds, but he would have killed Mahomes. He did the same thing, but just 10 times worse.
Yeah, Mahomes wouldn't have been playing in the Super Bowl, man. Hey, yeah, listen, Eli Apple right now, Mike Hilton is better, Awuzie is better. Dare I say, I think Cam Taylor-Britt played better for most of what I saw. Like, if Awuzie doesn't get hurt, man, Eli, he might have had to be on the bench permanently.
Oh, man, Eli Apple the GOAT. Great.
He's out here building a legacy.
He's a Buckeye, man. He's a Buckeye.
He could be a Middletown midi, and I would still not care.
Oh man,
I'm a sad Bengals fan, man. You gotta let me cope, bro.
We're all sad football fans, bro.
Thanks.
Hey, yeah, Mr. Cowboys definitely went out kind of sad, man. I hate to say it. Happens every year, man.
If nothing else, it was nice to lose because our offense was bad instead of our defense for once. So at least it was something different this year.
Dude, Kellen Moore is about to have a freaking field day on the Chargers. Let me tell you that.
Why did they make him the scapegoat all of a sudden?
I don't know, man. I don't get that at all. He wasn't great to start the year, but from like week 4 or 5 on, good sailing, man. He was a good OC. I don't get that one. I don't get that one at all.
When he got hired, they were acting like he was the greatest thing since sliced bread, bro. Like they was gassing. He was really good at what he was doing too. He made Dak look like a top 7-8 quarterback.
Yeah, no, he's a very good OC. I don't know why he becomes the scapegoat. I would have rather McCarthy get fired before him, to be honest. But
bro, Kellen Moore, he is not the problem. I feel like the problem with the Cowboys is that Dak is making $40 million, and this team. Listen, I know the fan base loves him. It's time to move off of Zeke, man.
I think he's taking
activate Pollard.
I think he's going to take a pay cut this summer, and then we're going to re-sign Pollard. I think that's the plan. So I just hope that Pollard becomes more of the lead guy from week 1 next year, and it's not Zeke getting 15 touches and Pollard getting 5. But we'll see. I think we're.
I was just going to say, at this point, it seems like Zeke is more like short yardage situations, goal line.
Yeah.
That's what he should be used for.
Yeah, I agree.
He's too good.
I agree. Pollard definitely should be your number 1 guy in the depth chart. Definitely your third down guy.
For sure.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of 3 Point Weekly. Be sure to let us know down in the comments below who you think will be traded before the trade deadline on the February 9th. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe below if you did enjoy. And we'll see you guys next week for our own draft of the all-star starters and reserves. Peace.